Good everything. Greetings.
What's going on?
Unc,
Greetings,
yeah,
greetings.
Unc Ujab Seneb to all
Kujab
my folks.
Seneb.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Uncle Kujab Seneb. Life and prosperity and Seneb. Health in ancient Egyptian language. Yes.
How
Isn't
are
that something?
you?
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Just very interesting stuff going on, huh?
Do tell. So, should we be should we be concerned? Like,
Well, I mean, if we're George Stephanopoulos and all the people in media, we should be clapping because what do you make of that? They're gonna make a lot of money when Trump gets back in, huh? Until they put it in the concentration camps. But before that,
this the short-sighted nature of humanity is shocking to me, and the lack of understanding of like that history, the threads that run through. We have to snip. We have to be constantly snipping to make sure it doesn't just knit itself back together. It's like it wants to come back together. It always wants to do this thing, and we have to work equally as hard to not let that happen. But it's like, oh, nothing's gonna happen until it happens. Oh, this is global warming. Talk
yes.
to the people in the aisles right now who are being battered, and also finding a way to make joy out of it, which is a black superpower, I think.
Well, yeah, it is until it's not.
Right.
I
So we
mean, we
I mean,
can find joy everywhere. In fact, it's so
what
funny
you,
today.
what you getting?
Today's
What you
art section. Oh, what's wrong?
getting? No, I just wanted to see what you were getting.
Oh yeah, yeah. No. I was looking down at the art section of today's New York Times. It really is something to be able to provide entertainment for a world while the world has its foot on your neck. Um, 20, 25 hot summers ago, Juvenile threw out a command, and booties everywhere have never been the same.
No,
This is the
is that
20th anniversary of Booty
no?
Shaking Hip that
Hold
sees.
on, is that the lead?
Yes, that is the lead below the fold on this art section of New York Times by a wonderful black writer, actually, who did a very important book on hip hop called The Come Up, Jonathan Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
Back that ass up, took twerking into the mainstream 25 years ago this summer. It's wonderful, isn't it, to be able to dance while they kicking your ass? I mean, they kicking your ass, but you're
Well,
backing it up into the
right. I was
foot
gonna say you're putting the ass in the proper placement for the foot.
for the foot. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Arguments can be made that the song is misogynistic, endearing, or both. But the track, built around juveniles hypnotically rapping the song's title instruction, a raunchy verse from its producer, Manny Fresh, and a syrupy outro from an ascendant teenage Lil Wayne, has definitely proved to have staying power. Juvenile 49. It's funny how people age out. How's this going to work? Like, you can't be like the Stones or Smokey Robinson, who was on the mall the other day at the 4th of July concert. Can you really do an oldies tour at 79 with Back That Ass Up? Juvenile 49 initially doubted the song would succeed as a single. And it took a last minute trip to Music Row in Nashville to finish the recording. Anyway, enough of that foolishness. To your point, we can dance through anything and find joy. I guess that's what they call black joy.
But
Except,
when you hear this beat though,
hmm, but we heard that beat before. We brought that beat
yeah,
with us on the boats.
come
We
on,
didn't
tell
always
us.
link it to foolishness. People say twerking is African. Yeah, shaking your booty perhaps is African, but why and how and what context you do it, that's the definition of culture, not that you do it. So everybody talking about for the culture, we're not talking about the actual action. We're talking about the reasons for the action. Culture is the reason you do what you do, not what you do. So that's just a little bulletin out there for folks who seem to think that everything we do is somehow the culture. No. You see, we've had legs, ass cheeks, hips, torsos, shoulders, I think since the beginning of the species, since before. What you do with those, it's unfortunate. Or maybe fortunate. It's black joy, right? That's what
I'm
the
sensing,
academics tell me.
I'm sensing in you because we've been doing this now 226 consecutive Saturdays.
226. Oh,
Um,
227 next coming up.
227.
Shout out to Marla Gibbs.
Yes, I'm sensing a fed upness with you.
Oh, I stay fed up. I
No,
stay.
but it's fever pitch and
Is it?
it's been a slow broil. You know, you started like, hey, okay, we're gonna learn some things, and now it's like bop, 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 bop,
Oh,
bop, bop.
well,
Mm-mm.
we were in a moment, weren't we, when it looked like the world was going to shift and did shift, and we had a moment, and we still now we've established uh, a rhythm that feeds into the foundation that you tapped into years ago and continued to build, and that's our people. You've been doing that, but it's different now because
Yeah.
yeah, all our revolutionary friends who were saying, we don't want genocide Joe, we wouldn't stand fascism, but the parties are the same. Well, you had 4 years to tap into that building of a movement.
No, 8
Haven't,
years, 8 years. I pulled up a clip from 2016 where
oh,
someone said, "No, well, Trump's not gonna be so bad. I'm not voting for Hillary." And they ended up voting for Jill Stein.
oh
Hi.
yeah, it's a lot
Hi,
of people
fellas.
like that.
Hi, fellas. And then you had 8 years, so we just need to build another party, blah, blah, blah. 8 years. There's no another party. You had 8 years to build another party. What happened? Where was the work?
And yeah, you're right. Eight plus. I mean, if you want to take it back a century
Breakdancing?
almost, Eugene Debs, I mean, the Socialist Party, state repression is real. So let's be very clear about it. You don't have states, you don't have countries in the modern world system without a lot of violence. And you got to keep the people in line. So every time you try to build a third or fourth party, and even when you have people like Henry Wallace in the 40s and 50s who are running progressives, you're going to find state violence. And then, of course, you're right, though. 8 years, certainly the acceleration of just stripping all pretenses that John Boy Roberts, who is so exquisitely delusional in his silly black robe with his downturned small 2010 Citizens United, when they just unleashed all the money. Now we don't even have to pretend dialing for dollars. No, we're just going to fund. It has taken it now into an area where you know, our lives are people saying, "Oh, people every 4 years you say that this is the most important election of our lifetime." Well, every 4 years it gets a little closer to being true. They dodged the bullet, maybe in England. We talked about that. Those of you not yet in Nubia and not on that side, Monday night we talked about that because we were on the eve of it. They voted on the 4th of July, and so now this is front page today's FT. The work of change begins today. This is the new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. But we knew he was going to be elected. He and his wife at 10 Downing Street.
Dr. Carr, what happened to the Pakistani brother?
The Pocky is, DEI. Well, he's rich,
What
he
happened to
married
him?
into money,
Yeah.
so he's just fine. I guess they put him out, or at least they probably let him. Last time we saw somebody in front of this 10 Downing Street, it was the rain. He was out there, flailing. But he no longer has a job in government. He'll be fine though. He's got plenty of money. Sunak. Um, and in another move that is being celebrated, at least among the political class in Britain, David Lammy, 51-year-old brother. He's the next foreign secretary. So he'll be the foreign secretary. He's made nice to the Trump administration, uh, but he's quote unquote center left, so to speak. There was a time when he was much clearer about it. When he once wrote in Time magazine that Donald Trump is a woman-hating neo-Nazi sociopath. It's a black dude, Lammy. Lammy is now the foreign secretary. Now you don't expect England is not going to move sharply into the left, but the Tories, the conservatives, took a major ass whipping. But now we're all lining up to see what's going to happen tomorrow. That will be when the French decide whether they want a fascist, open kind of anti-immigrant fascist, just in time for the Olympics to be.
While they're taking poops and dumps in the Thames.
Yeah, because that's where the procession is supposed to go in, right? They're supposed to proceed from the Thames into the Olympics. So the French are like, yeah, we about to mess that up for you. But
Exactly. Let me
Georgia,
ask you a question.
yes.
And I brought up your fed upness, not to
No, no,
highlight
no. I've
other
been
than
fed up.
no, I know, but I'm because I am too,
I know you
and
are.
and so all of the people who feel, you're doing too much, it's just entertainment, Dr. Carr. It's just the BET Awards, Dr. Carr. I mean, it's can't we have fun? I mean, twerking, Dr. Carr, you're just doing it's just too much. We need to be able to have fun.
Yeah.
Why are you excoriating us for? Well, they probably wouldn't be using that word, but
Could be, could
Maybe. You know, I don't mean not let me not do that. But
yeah.
I do want to do that because do better. Like, don't you want to know
Do
things?
better.
Don't you want to know things? Don't you want to be
Don't
informed rather
don't
than
you
this,
want
this
to know things?
chaos that is going on? You know, and when you brought up Citizens United, I knew then it was a problem, but it's like that was the domino.
Yeah.
Like everyone, there was no marches in the street about that because what it basically said is we the people have no power to form a more perfect union.
Or
It's
if we
all
want to
gonna
form a
be
more perfect union, we're going to have to beat all the money in the world. Right.
that was it. That
That's
was it, right?
all
So
the money.
we're talking about all these other things, but that was the domino.
Yeah.
That was the domino. So
Yeah.
now here we are. Here we are trying to hold the door. Like for those of you Game of Thrones folk, we're Hodor out here trying to hold the door. We
Ooh,
know
Lord.
for Hodor, I think he got crushed in that door. Not spoiler alert. I'm sorry.
I don't remember Game of Thrones. I mean, I already watched Game of Thrones. Well, I continue to watch. It's called The History of Western Civilization.
Come
I mean,
on.
so I mean the idea, and then for black people, like, we need a black version of Game of Thrones. No, you don't. No, you're living in the black version. You're suffering. Although our young sister is at Toyi Adeyemi, she was here last week at the Martin Luther King Library. She finished her trilogy, her Yoruba
Blood and
Western.
Bones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
her,
Yeah.
her last one came out, and so
Yep.
it's beautiful. And here's a sister who's very interesting. Yeah, all the interviews with her, what she said last week. You know, she said, I'm Yoruba. I grew up in a household where I didn't learn that. Just like a lot of African people, their parents, their grandparents, having been immersed in the white Christianity that caused them to look at their own culture like, oh, that's juju, that's bad. But so after I became an adult and started studying and learning, I was like, oh, y'all shut me. Let me go learn this. And she's sitting in it. That's not Game of Thrones. Well, I mean, but Game of Thrones is very entertaining if you haven't studied European history. But if you study European history, you ain't got to watch. You don't need no dragons. You got Napoleon. You don't need no dragons. You got Montesquieu. You don't need dragons. You got David Hume. You don't need dragons. You got everybody that came and snatched you and put you in a boat and then tricked you into using their language as your language. You can't beat them. They're going to kill themselves. And I'm talking about those who adhere to that foolishness. This is what's happening in France. So yeah, I mean, but why are you? I mean, we know, but well, maybe we don't. Why does this feel different right now, this moment?
You know, there's like they call this there's tipping points, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, or like in a tsunami, the waters retract,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they come and take everything out. And I'm literally watching us stand at the beach pointing.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. You know, I'm like, and I guess it's my naivete or my optimism, because I am actually an optimist.
Well, we have to be.
Yeah, that people will wake up, but but because I sit on the radio and I talk to so many people every day, and they have the audacity and the boldness to call up some of them and put their, as you say, their whole brains on display.
And my mama.
Their lack of understanding of everything, the frustration level builds, because it's like, if you listen every day and you could still call up and say these things, or you're on YouTube, and unfortunately YouTube is a bastion of misinformation, disinformation, and pure abject ignorance magnified 1,000 times, right?
Better
Shocking.
reflection of the range of human ability.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's my point. You know, the fact that it was like, oh, this is so different. Why isn't this the norm? Like informing people, like, and it's wild. Like the ability to sit in wrong and not want to be corrected and be mad if you are corrected, or be mad if you're challenged, and feel like you're being shamed, as opposed to saying, what am I missing here? That particularly somebody like you, and you know, and then to go to, you're an op, or you're being paid. No, unfortunately, I wish they would.
I mean, well, that's the trap, right? Once they give you a little money,
but you know, I'm not getting any money from anybody to talk about these things, not even here. Okay, so it's like, and y'all know, because it's like the algorithms, I will block you in a minute. I ain't playing with y'all
about that.
so
So folks think you're enriching yourself somehow with this. No, there are much more efficient and much more profitable ways to enrich yourself while talking black. Check any university right now, particularly the Ivy League. Check the publishing companies that pay people now to write black as hell try any of the places where you went. There are plenty of ways to
In the
make.
New York Times, he put booty in a lead on a
Oh,
daily
oh, 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 look,
on
look,
a front page.
look, they buck wild today. Look, watch this. Don't go nowhere. I was gonna read this sentence right quick. Is this today's paper? Saturday, was it Saturday? Or was it no, it was about the young people in France. Because we like to say that, it's old people who are racist. The young people are progressive. Okay, here's yesterday's time. It was Friday.
Ellen Roof,
You know,
the kid that shot the people in Buffalo. They were they teens?
exactly. No, exactly.
What is Kyle Rittenhouse? But go ahead.
A child, exactly. But young. Far right pulls French youth toward its side. But to the point you raised, and they put booty in the art section. This was on the front page of yesterday's Times. It says, in the 1980s, a French punk rock band coined a rallying cry against the country's far right that retained its punch over decades. The chant, still shouted at protests by the left, is, and here it is. If you speak French, you're gonna bust out laughing. La jeunesse émeute le Front National. Now, that's on the front page of the New York Times. I think now, if those of you who, like me, and maybe if you did it, I know a lot of people did, who took your high school French and learned the curse words first, then you know what melt means. It says, the chant, still shouted at protests by the left, is La jeunesse émeute le Front National, which cannot be translated well without curse words, but essentially tells the far right to get lost. Then it goes on to say, the young people ain't chanting that no more. A lot of them are now going to vote for these fascists. So y'all trying to say it was, but my point is this. If you put booty in the arts and melt on the front page of the New York Times and think that because most people don't know French, I should pull up the app now because I'm sure it's a bunch of people laughing. I'm like, really? But point is that there are no standards. There are no standards. In fact, the crudeness is the point. Let me go here, because on this same thing with Juvenile, above the fold is one of the ringmasters. Look at our friend Andy Cohen. Look at him. For this talk show, Off the Rails is the destination on Watch What Happens. Andy Cohen stirs the pot with his guests to promote Bravo's reality TV lineup. Do you know what the highest rated show on cable is?
I actually do.
That's y'all friend, ain't it? With all them stereotypes, all this misogyny. Look at him, Kiki. Oh, by the way, he's a left guy. He's Democrat, all kind of thing. So, what's wrong? I was like, oh man, that ringmaster is a wild bull, ain't he? That's a wild thing. Here it is. Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens on Bravo is now cable's highest rated late night talk show. Not highest rated period. Highest rated late night talk shows. Watch what happens. We got a front row seat, Chief, and you'll be fine. Trump get back in, you and your friends can jet set wherever you want. What you gonna do with all them people who you done led off into the cliff because they looking at the lives of all them people that you got on your show? Except they ain't got money. Maybe you'll take, Nene got fired. Right? I don't watch it anymore.
Nene, Kendra, Candy Quid.
Jose Williams' granddaughter still on it?
She's back. She was gone. Why do I know this stuff though? I'm mad at myself.
Because
right.
I mean, this is what it is, though, right? I mean, this is the point you're raising, isn't it? This is the level. So now we're in a point now where it's all fun and games till it's not. And so is that why you're feeling kind of right now?
Because it's too, like I love to laugh.
Sure, we all do.
Want to have joy, but there's just really too much at stake, and there's too many unserious people. And so you can't build with a bunch of sand. It's going right through them, just like trying to gather. And it's like, and at some point you just want to give up, but you know that you cannot.
You can't.
And there's just too many reasons not to give up.
You can't.
Because I also know it just takes one thing to turn. It just takes one thing, one moment, one word, one speech, one something,
or one shock.
One shock.
In fact, let me do this by way of opening up, because we're talking about it today. When we ignore the obvious, we know, and then come on back. I just want to read from this because we know that and parenthetically, just pausing to realize last night or yesterday afternoon, I guess, in Los Angeles, They had close to 4 hour wake for James Lawson. Our friend Mark Thompson, Masamela, uh, was he presided, but it was a lot of people who spoke. It struck me because the church they had it in seemed like a decent sized church, not a mega church that we're used to seeing now, but it was well attended. But here's a man who lived into his 90s, who introduced, and we can put the credit on Mahatma Gandhi if you want, but it's James Lawson and Howard Thurman and Sue Bailey and Thurman and Mordecai Johnson and so many others, Benjamin Elijah Mays, Sadie Mays, who surround Martin King. It's not Mahatma's Gandhi. Everybody calm down. But the point is this, Lawson lived until a few weeks ago on top of the earth. And now that he's an ancestor, for that ritual, for that wake to be able to be contained in the smallest church and not the Staples Center says a great deal about where we are. The man had literally outlived the memory of the people if they ever knew who he was. And so, I mentioned this is his last book, Revolutionary Nonviolence, Organizing for Freedom, James Lawson. What was striking to me was that non-African people were the overwhelming majority. There were black folk there, including his family. And there were a lot of black folk there, relatively speaking, to the small crowd, but there were more white, Latino, Asian. It was a true kind of community of humanity speaking about James Lawson. And of course, the reason that I was able to watch was because Black Star Network, Roland Martin, streamed it because he interviewed James Lawson. Some people are talking, but I mean, it was very striking to sit there and look and say, this is a guy who the world should stop for this ritual. But most people have never heard the name James Lawson. And so anyway, that was parenthetically. The point I wanted to open up with today, continue in the opening up as we already opened the minute we went live, was another human being who made transition, who I mentioned last week quickly, Alanda Sepeda, the great baseball player, one-time teammate of Willie Howard Mays for the San Francisco Giants, the Afro-Puerto Rican who was very proud of where he came from. And this is, there are a few books I'm like, oh man, ancestors don't make no mistakes. I'm saying, oh, these I didn't put in storage. So, I mean, well, not all of his books, not all the ones around here, but my ups and downs in baseball, this is early. Alanda Sepeda, like the sports biographies they do all the time. Baby Bull is another one. This guy did a lot of reminiscing, right? Alanda Sepeda. But this is the one, Hide Inside, Alanda Sepeda's story. This is chapter 1. Because in the obituaries, they talk about his Hall of Fame career in baseball, but they always talk about this drug bust. And it's germane to what we're talking about this morning, Prof, in this sense. Let me just read from this in a way also to mark the passing of Alanda Sepeda. And I wanted to mention James Lawson as well this morning, because again, folk, we come, we go. Ultimately, we're all going to be somewhere else. And then ultimately this ball is going to be somewhere else. So the idea that time is somehow just this static thing, of course, is absurd. All this going to pass away. And then who knows? Maybe it all comes back in a different form. Maybe this is the infinite time we've been here. We don't need Marvel Comics to tell us that. But this is chapter 1 of Hide Inside, which has a couple of meanings, as we'll find out in a second. Sepeda writes this. This is when he published this, 1983. He says, there are about 3 million people on the island of Puerto Rico. And sometimes I think I am the only one of them who did not know what was going on that morning. Certainly, I can see now that everyone at the airport knew. I should have known too. My God, there were enough signs. Well, I suppose Alvin Dark, my old manager with the San Francisco Giants, would not be surprised. He always used to say, I never could read the signs. That was just one of the many lies he told about me. But this time, it was true. The signs were there, and a blind man could have read them. There's nothing wrong with my eyes. They were sharp enough to see the rotation on a baseball coming right at them at 90 miles an hour from 60 feet away. They could tell in less time than it takes to turn a doorknob or snap on an electric light whether the ball would enter the precise limitations of the strike zone or veer an inch or two to one side or the other. They have been good to me, these eyes. They helped me hit 379 major league home runs, drive in 1,365 base runners, and average 297 over 17 years. They helped me win Rookie of the Year honors in 1958, a most valuable player award in 1967, and designated hitter of the year trophy in 1973. They also saw me through 3 World Series and 11 All-Star games, but the best eyes in the world are useless if they do not relay their information to the brain. Last paragraph. On this day, December 12, 1975, my eyes saw everything, but they told me nothing. I had arrived at San Juan International Airport at 9 o'clock that morning to pick up 2 suitcases and 2 boxes containing clothes and, to the best of my knowledge, about 60 pounds of high quality marijuana. If y'all know the story about Alanda Sepeda, you know what happened next. But my point is, the whole point, Prof, was that line. He said, but the best eyes in the world are useless if they do not relay that information to the brain. So what happens when we ignore the obvious? You gonna believe me or your lying eyes? Joe Biden is old. We gotta talk about his health. You gonna take a cognitive test? Do you see this fool standing next to him telling whole ass lies and going? Come on back, bro. It's funny how things work, right? Because I'm looking around. So I got these Sepeda books here. But what happens when you can see everything, but you don't relay that to your brain? Are we in a moment when you just gonna see this and what? Just
Well, I mean, if you think about, we can take it all the way back. One of the first books I assigned my class is Propaganda by Ed Bernays.
mm-hmm.
And, it's important to see how the constant barrage, like it's every day, right? It's the death scroll on Instagram and TikTok. It's television. It's all because I watch way too much television. My only vice, really, my worst vice.
We all watch too
much. Yeah, we all do watch too much, right? But
yeah, we all do. Don't sing yourself out. It's like we all watch too much.
No, but I'm just gonna say, none of us are impervious to the machinations, and they're willful. The gladiator games, I just posted a piece on my Instagram because I'm getting back into that from Presumed Innocent, where the guy makes the speech, and shout out to LeVar Burton too, because Clipped is a whole ass mess of a show. I love it though, but there's these scenes with the Doc Rivers character played by Lawrence Fishburne and LeVar Burton. They're in the same apartment. But they've been having these scenes in the sauna. And it's filled out of the sauna where LeVar talks about having the change from Roots. Like it's wild having the change from Roots right below his Emmys.
Yeah. 16 Emmys. I have a chain from Roots.
Yeah, because as you say, these awards are a pat on the head to like, okay, Oscars so black, we're gonna give a bunch of black people Oscars, so stop paying attention, please value this, because as long as we can have you wedded to something, and we should have all the awards because we deserve it. So it's the trick, right? It's like, don't you deserve this? Don't you deserve this nice car? Don't you deserve the biggest house? Don't you deserve these things? Well, this is what you need to do. And credit. And I think about, like Japanese society where you there's no credit report, because if you ain't got the money, you can't rent the apartment, period. It's just so simple, and life is so simple and clean. Everybody's, clean. They clean up after themselves. The children cook and clean in schools. They clean. They learn, certain values. Here, we just toss stuff out of the window because somebody's going to pick it up. Somebody's going to clean it up. Somebody is going to get this trash. Somebody's going to do it until they don't.
Gonna do it. Somebody's going to do it.
Somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to vote. I don't have to vote. My vote doesn't matter. Somebody's going to vote.
But in that line, there's a question I want to ask you. I thought it myself, and now it makes perfect sense because I did watch Clipped. Isn't it something to think that Donald and Shelley Sterling are still alive? Billionaires. What I'm saying?
Wait. But the crazy thing is, them selling it made them richer.
Mm-hmm. But of course it did. And of course, Sterling's threat made the sale necessary. Because if y'all put me out, I'm telling on everybody. Pay this man. Stern probably. I mean, what's the boy name?
Adam Silver.
Like you want to just pay whatever they say. Pay, because we can't afford for these Negroes to run off and make their own basketball league. This is going to be a problem. So just get rid of this guy before you telling everybody else.
But what are these governors who used to be owners?
Right. Isn't that something?
What did they do exactly? what does Jerry Jones do exactly? Like, what's his
Sit
special
back, sit
talent?
back and count that money that we
Yeah,
giving
what's
through
his
whatever
special
companies he
talent
owns.
that he was able to,
Sit
because
back and get.
most of the arenas are paid for by the taxpayers, right?
That's right. That's right.
So you're not spending money on that. Concessions, do you make the hot dogs and stuff? Like, are you cleaning the seats? Or like are you running the ball? Or can you run a ball? Have you
Well,
ever been able to run a ball?
we're
Right?
giving
Like,
them money. We're giving
right,
them money. I mean, this
jerseys.
was yesterday's page
Come on.
6 on in FT Fast Times. Saks Fifth Avenue's parent company is nearing a $2.65 billion deal to buy its luxury department store rival Neiman Marcus, with the backing of tech groups Amazon and Salesforce. See, what people don't understand is you're giving them the money they're using to buy their toys. Bezos been after the Commanders for how long now? He'll get it eventually because you're going to order something today to give him some more money to do it. Now, Mackenzie Scott is going to get some of that money and give a nickel of it perhaps to you. And so instead of us understanding that, that's all fine. But the real power, this is what Jamal Bone was saying, right, wrong, whatever you agree, disagree with his politics, is very clear. There are more people than there is money. But if we can, what you do every day, Prof, punching through the noise, people don't understand when that catches, they're finished. This is why they gotta stop. This is why, please do not. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna say less. But I want to ask you this question about this because I watched clip. I did. I in the middle of the night. Let me turn this on. Say, oh, this is fascinating. Because of course I'm a Larry Fishburne flame. Fishburne is like Denzel in many ways, except the L he took in Glory, but the L that Larry Fishburne took in Bad Company with Ellen Larkin. Other than that, it's almost like I could see Lawrence Fishburne sitting there with his agent, his lawyer, say, "I will consider this script as long as I don't get killed." Because we all just knew that he was gonna get killed in the first Matrix. How does man live through 3, man? I mean, so my point is this. I said, I like Larry Fishburne. I'm gonna watch him, but those scenes with LeVar Burton, you're absolutely right, are gold. So the question I want to ask you is this:
Before you do, this is the parenthetical. He's the only man that I didn't know that I drank after. So he came into the studio. He had this coffee blend he wanted me to taste. And I was like, and y'all, people who know me know that I'm still a little traumatized by it because I'm like, why does the other man know?
You know, we need more of those stories. In a minute, I'll say why.
Please don't get.
He was like, you crop yourself.
I don't know where his mouth been, but okay.
And you survived.
I did.
I mean, I always knew Fishburne was. I always hoped Fishburne was like. When you talk about they not like us, to me, I want Fishburne. I always hoped he was like down with the culture, and the culture mean memory.
Lovely man in real life.
Clearly,
just lovely.
The first time I saw Lawrence Fishburne in person was when he walked on stage with Ralph Carter from Good Times, because Wesley Snipes could not be there to introduce the film that he had produced on John Henry Clark at Town Hall in Manhattan.
Wow.
And he said, Wesley is off on location. So Ralph Carter and Larry Fishburne, who also students of Black history and also in some ways one time removed, well, not Ralph Carter, he knew John Clark, disciples of John Henry, because Ralph Carter was there when they unveiled the thing in Hunter with President Robin, because Ralph Carter is deep in it. And Larry Fishburne told the story, said, Ralph would drag me and Wesley into these things. He said, so it's an honor to be here to introduce this film for our brother who couldn't be here for John Henry Clark. I said, you know what? I F's with Larry Fishburne. It's a different thing.
Cornbread Earl and me.
Come on. From the child. Come on now. Now we talking about popular culture. We want to entertain ourselves. Fine. You can dance. They danced in Cooley High. They danced. I mean, come on now. So the question I wanted to ask you is this. How much of what LeVar Burton told Lawrence Fishburne in that steam room about them change their Emmy and how he feels from day to day do you think was scripted? And how much do you think actually happened?
I think that was 100% true.
Really? Okay. Spoiler alert. For anybody who want to watch it, really shouldn't be. Do you mind sharing that scene with the world that we have in this conversation? I know you have. I mean, it's just so powerful.
Let's pull it up because I think it's more.
Okay. Yeah, no question.
I didn't have it ready, but I will.
No. Is it there to get?
It's available. Let me just pull it up really quick.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay, I got it because I do have it. Hold on. Wait 1 second. Let me put it in a form that I can get it.
I'll mute myself in that way.
Yeah, hold on 1 second because we're doing this morning in real time, producing. Look at this. Look at us producing. All right, hold on. Let me hit pause. Let me come back over here. Let me share my screen. Is this it? I think this is it. Yep. Let's share. Let me pull it up. I just pulled up the first. Hold on. Hold on.
You muted yourself. You did it on purpose, I'm assuming. And thank you. I can now pull up the chats. I got a second. It is the Seine. It's not the Thames in England. Thank you,
Oh,
YouTube.
what was it? It's not the
No,
Thames?
the river I was saying, Thames, of course, is England. Seine is France.
Oh, see,
So
you're
yeah,
right. You're
but
right.
that's fine. That's good.
I put that misinformation out there. I apologize.
No. It's beautiful. It's
All right.
beautiful.
So this is a scene. They moved from the sauna because they would just meet in the
Oh,
sauna.
that's right.
Now they're in Lawrence
Yeah, the
Fishburne's
balcony
apartment,
yeah.
or Doc Rivers, because I can't see Doc Rivers. I only see Lawrence Fishburne.
No question.
Whatever. All right, you ready?
It's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You know the chains I wore in Roots? I keep them over the hearth in my living room, right above my 12 Emmys. What is that about?
I don't know. What is it to you?
America first met me as Kunta Kinte, a young African kid who was kidnapped, tortured, refused his slave name. Then I read to their children and maintained the integrity of their favorite spaceship. Pretty soon, people began to think of me as safe.
Oh, the safest.
Once, I read Go the Fuck to Sleep for charity.
Yeah.
One of my brand partners dropped me.
What, you can't even say fuck?
I can, but there are consequences. I said fuck. I lost money.
Shit.
If I showed how angry I really am, but I'm not gonna hide it. So I keep my chains on the wall in the living room. I want my guests to know, while I am unquestionably their friend, I am also absolutely filled with rage.
Mm.
Remind me of James Baldwin. Baldwin said to be black in America is to be in a state of constant rage. Constant rage.
So if we release it in a twerk or at a Megan Thee Stallion concert, or we throw these wild cookouts because we can,
But
you know.
then we continue in it to not only do it at the Megan concert, but then some dude shoots her in the foot.
Right.
Then we not only do it backing that ass up, we do it in the Magnolia Projects where they all came from, Birdman and Wayne and all them juvenile. I mean, and so it doesn't relieve the stress. It feeds it back into the thing.
Well, compounds a fracture. I always say, you never want to compound your fracture. Things gonna break, but you don't want to compound the fracture.
No question.
Yeah, no, that was so powerful for so many people because he articulated something, and I believe him because I've interviewed him many times, and he's very, 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 not just well read, but when you are up against, the level of success and power and money, you know what I'm saying? When you become the one that is picked primarily because of your safeness,
How about that?
Certain kind of people, and those that are picked, I'm not gonna, say anything about you, even though I always like, why not me? I had that moment, maybe that period of time. Dr. Carr's like,
we all have that. We all have
me.
that.
What is wrong with me? Why? I know I'm brilliant. I know I'm better than, it's like, I know more. I know I can do that better. Why not me? And then I realized, why not me? I realized, and once I realized it, I'm like, I'm gonna double down on this. So you're gonna really feel it now. And then it became like, can we equal and opposite the reaction? Can we build the thing that they're trying to do to keep us calm? Can we agitate enough? And where's the line? Can we step on it? Can we pee on it? Because sometimes pee is a conductor. I'm saying something metaphorically, of energy, electricity. Can we spread it out?
Is that why the dude peed in the plane and they turned it around? Did you see that?
But don't pee on the third rail, because you can get electrocuted.
Hello, connection.
Your penis will be burnt, and you may die. But I say all this to say that this is that rage, and most of us stuff it down so far. that we don't acknowledge it or realize it until it shows up, in the wrong places with people that we absolutely should be loving. We exact this rage on the people that are around us, that are closest to us, because it has to have a outlet. Energy has to go somewhere, right?
That's right.
So we have to. That's why we have to be conscious, and that's why he keeps those chains there as a reminder that the me you think I am, the safe me, yeah.
Which is, he's interesting. Baba Montoya, Dr. Black, Dan Black, in the coming, after they've made the journey and they're in the stall, the holding pens, one of the last people to be sold is the most dangerous one of all. And they think he's the most harmless of all. The question becomes, at least one question, if danger unactivated, if danger is unactivated, is it danger? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's danger to us, because that's like a ticking bomb. It's going to explode in our midst.
Well, that was Langston Hughes, right?
Right?
Dream.
It's gonna explode where we are.
Yeah.
Right?
But what
And
happens to a dream deferred, right?
there's no direction. So, the thing that you provide, and I'm so grateful. There's every time I talk with you, I'm keeping notes, and I know I'm not the only one. But when what I'm also doing is connecting dots, and I'm also building. I'm building. Every time you put another name up, I'm doing a circle, and I'm tying it. I'm almost doing like a family tree. Like, how do we deconstruct this so we can push it into the future? But yeah, that energy has to go somewhere, and we have to be conscious of it in ourselves and the people around us. And it's not, to give grace to people that behave in a certain way, because there should be a standard as well of how we treat each other, how we speak to each other, which is why I'm zero tolerant. Y'all can call me what you want. But yeah, you're not just gonna come on in here and do whatever. I don't care who you are. I don't care. It's funny listening back to my interview with Steve Bannon after you read, and that inspired me, because you read that New York Times piece in Office Hours.
And you put it there. You and him back. You got to take him off.
Yeah, but I was like, I did this 6 years ago, and I was like, ooh.
Yes.
I was listening to myself. I was like, oh my God, you girl. So I was having a conversation, because I wouldn't probably do the interview the same way today.
Well, but you put that marker down, and people playing with these people. These people are not playing with us, but you playing with them. You didn't play with him.
No, I don't
And
play
I'm
with
trying to
anybody.
remember, did we do it Saturday or did we do it in office hours?
What, the
Oh, we did it in office hours. We went through, that was for those of you who are not in Nubia. We David Brooks did an interview with Steve Bannon, I guess just before he went to jail, where he is now. But they published it in the New York Times.
Getting street cred.
Oh, of course.
Don't underestimate. This is a rallying. This is something really powerful for him.
It's going to be very, very good for him. No question. Yeah. I mean, he's a martyr. He's a patriot, to use Donald Trump's language. So yeah, I mean, we went through it chapter and verse. We went very clear. We went kind of chapter and verse through Trump versus United States, and we went through that interview. Again, this is something that we're able to do because we got a space where it's just us, and we can have that conversation about just us. I mean, those of us trying to be liberation strugglers, and it's not controlled by the people who buy things. The sponsors are each individual. This is the genius of it. Again, this is the Woodson model. This is the African model. If everybody do a little, nobody has to do a lot. So when you say that, people are saying, "Oh wow, Karen Hunter must be making a lot of money." Hold on. All that's getting plowed back into the institution building. And if and when that awful day comes, these billionaires who are lining up yesterday or today's paper, this is today. Prof, what is going on? And we're not switching topic. I'm just thinking about this question of resource. How do you read these feckless politicians and these mass commercial entertainment news sources like the New York Times, who are just beating this drum to get Joe Biden out of this race? I know you've talked about it, but I mean, there's several thousand people here, at least a couple and more in Nubia side, and another 1,000 plus watching live here. This seamless ability that you have, that we are now in community doing every day, it might be the thing that helps save us. So I mean, help the people who didn't catch you on Sirius. How are you reading this?
This is baffling. Like, I want to think that they're doing it because this is, I always make this analogy that, children want cookies. I'm always gonna make this analogy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe if they like cookies, candy, whatever.
Of course.
And we're in a society that feeds the children cookies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even though it's not good for them. So if the children want cookies, this is what we're gonna give them cookies. Is this what y'all saying? This is what we're gonna do.
Cookies.
What you saying?
Cookies. Right.
Give, because then the kids keep coming back. Give me more cookies. Give me more. Oh, and then I love you, mommy. So it's like, as opposed to broccoli. But a good mother's gonna hide the broccoli in some lasagna or something.
Something.
We're gonna blend it up and put it in something. We're gonna put the vegetables in
Lord have
the
mercy.
food, but we're not getting any veggies. None.
Cookies are the teachers that the students love at school because they let them watch TV and play games. Then
Yes.
they get to be an adult and realize they can't read. That is a warning shot across the bow for every program out here that y'all. That's why we did in Philadelphia Freedom Schools. They were like, well, all the other children are cleaning up the community and they make little dances. I said, I'll be damned. Go get the hardest book off my bookshelf. Get that to the 16-year-old. Anybody who doesn't want to do that, you're an enemy of the race. Oh, there's so many Negroes that I have challenged on that. And listen, y'all very carefully. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm about to challenge, because when you think literacy is about turning everything into a hip hop song, we're going to dance because the kids love it. And you have just sacrificed countless generations of intellectual work. So yeah, the candy, the kids love the candy. And then what happens probably when they get old, they ain't got no teeth and
cavities,
diabetes and
yes, all of that, on
dialysis.
dialysis, and may not have the wherewithal to even connect the dots to that is the source of
That's
why
right.
I'm here, right?
That's right.
So that's the other thing, so the momentum of memory, and every time we are here, we are only here because you say a thing, and then I envision a thing, and then I execute the thing that you say. But the
We're
thing
here
that you
because
say,
we all are.
yeah, but I'm saying, but you set the table. You evoke the imagination of what's possible. And so I just want to just say thank you, because but this is greatness is a collaborative effort. I just want to say
Exactly.
so.
And that's how we win. Well, let's continue this because I want to ask you about this, because these cats now, this was
I don't know what
yesterday.
they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. I know that they did it last time, and we were mad about it last time, right? You gave Trump billions of dollars of free advertising, you gave him billions of dollars, and even who was the dude from CBS? Les Moonves was like, this is a winning formula. We're gonna keep doing it. And they said this to our faces, right? And then they're doing it again, and we're like, I can't believe they're doing this. Well, they did it before. They're struggling. CNN is struggling. Have you seen the lowest ratings in 30 years? And the ratings barely scrape 1 million on a given day on any platform. All of these,
and they're throwing anything against just because
anything.
Andy Cohen got black women tearing each other's eyes out. Don't mean CNN could put Abby and Laura on at night. You looking for black women to save you?
Two smart people, though.
Exactly, but see, and ain't this
somebody talking about an underground railroad that's a real train whose father was an actual civil right.
No, but the only comparison I'm making,
the
only comparison is this: the demographic comparison. Why put two black women on night after? What was the thinking in that room, that production room?
Black women are going to watch black women. They don't know us. They're programming, and then they got black people in the room. All of these channels, all of these networks. Rashida Jones, and you got Yvette Miley. You got black people sitting in these seats making these decisions based on what they think their bosses, want to.
Help me. Are those two things the same? Sitting in the seat and making the decisions?
No.
Okay, I just want to be clear. Sitting in the seat don't mean you making the decisions, right?
No, but sometimes we think we're making a decision. I wish we get these places because I've had these crossroad moments where it's like I know what they want, and this would make them really happy with me, right? If I give them what they want. Had these moments. I had a moment just a few months ago. I know what you want, but that's not good for us. So I'm going to stand in this and fight, and I know that's going to make me your open enemy.
Right.
So I also know that there's that thing, right? Like I really don't like her, but it's too painful right now to do something about it. But it's in the back of, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't walk in lockstep. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but so what they want. Most people give them what they want because you preserve your position and you get more territory, right? So you get as an individual,
regardless
of what you want to do with it. I'm putting black people on, so I'm also,
right.
So I'm good, right? Look at all the black people I gave positions to. But did you move the needle? Did you change the paradigm? Did you shift anything in the culture of the corporation that you're in? Did you change anything fundamentally? Or are you doing a blackface version of the same old thing? Is there anything different with those shows? Do they have the same format? Do they all have the same guests, the same format? Are they doing the same thing? And what's changed, Dr. Carr? The ratings aren't getting any better. So what are you doing?
What are you doing?
And that's great. Make more black millionaires. Make more black millionaires. That's good. But if those black millionaires aren't then using that money, if they're not doing a Nipsey Hussle, if they're not, feeding the community beyond just themselves, then what's the point? That's nice.
And meanwhile, that rage LeVar Burton expressed continues to be. And then one night when somebody says the one thing you can't, then you blew up on the anchor panel, and then you ain't there no more. Like, what happened? Oh, I thought Abby Phillip was cool. Why did you? No, that's enough. And then you know what I'm saying? Because Don Lemon was so down with the foolishness, because like I've said many times, I lived in Philly. When I would get on that 4:52 a.m. train coming from Philly to DC to come down to DC, he was on the air. And the story of how Don Lemon operated in Philly, and with the sister who was the anchor who lost her job, and all that, Don was down. Then something broke it. Don, the one they sent, y'all remember, I stood 50 feet from Don Lemon in downtown Baltimore across from City Hall during the Freddie Gray insurrections. Don's the one they sent. Remember, we was on lit, and then something happened. What happened to Don? And now he's out the paint. Don got black as hell for a minute. He never.
Is he? And he went to drama. Is he? Stop. Don't play in my face. And that's the problem. Because
don't play in my face.
Teaspoon of sugar helps the medicine go down. I'm double entendre there. But as you are, you're infecting me. I got to get off this thing. Go ahead.
No.
Bad influence, Dr. Carr.
But the question we're trying to answer, why are they doing what they're doing, is very interesting, because we know you can't trust commercial media. They're in it to make a profit. Every day I read New York Times, Financial Times, and other newspapers. But if you're reading and listening and being in conversation across the range, you can still extract some clues as to what they're after. Like to yesterday's New York Times front page. And it's interesting because this is yesterday and today's paper. So tell me, Prof, as you would teach your students, if you put something top left above the fold, is there a design to that? Because these are the stories that are top left yesterday and today. What is the design of that?
I think, hold that up again. Because I think the top right are the...
Well, it's inverted because of the mirror. But if you're reading it, it's left. Okay. This one, many backers of Biden in 20 want a plan B. That's today's paper. Yesterday's paper, donors devise push for Biden to leave race.
Right. One of the top national, one's top international, the other side's top international.
Yeah. Other side from yesterday, labor this is Britain. Labor poised to end. Oh, that's what it is. And then this is now. Okay, this is France right now. Oh, no, this is actually England again. That's what it is. Okay, international, national. So this is what I found interesting about yesterday's paper, though.
Broadsheet, by the way, broadsheet. That's a broadsheet. All right, just do a little lesson. That's a broadsheet because of how it folds. So fold it out. Oh, yep. So yeah, how it folds is a broad, and you open it again, in the middle. Broadsheet, boom, broadsheet. Versus tabloid, which I don't think you read any tabloids.
I don't think I have a New York Post.
Yeah, Post or Daily News or any of it. Tabloid is not because of sensational, it's because of how it folds, right? And because of its one big face, so it's not a fold like you fold in the middle and all of that above the fold, because it's just one big thing. It is the best place to put big headlines, big picture.
I see.
So it leans into sensationalism because of big headlines, big picture. Versus tabloid.
The FT has run
broadsheet as well. Yeah.
So what when they do this, what does that signal? This is today's FT, which is of course a paper coming out of. This is like the British version of the Wall Street Journal, except it's more global in many ways. So when they do that, that's the new prime minister. What does that signal?
Well, first of all, because it's British, they lean. This is an important story.
This is their thing.
Yep. Very important. And what's below the fold is Biden.
France poised for hung parliament as far right squeeze. Okay. But there it is. Donors back Democratic governors as Biden falters. This is interesting to read this against what was in yesterday's paper. Again, here we're reading between the lines. Here's today's Financial Times. The story is on page 6, but watch this. It says, and again, this is the money paper. This is what the people who own all them companies that we all buy from read. So that's why I read it, because they're not. It's like military history. You read military history not to feel good or feel pride, because all the military historians want to know is who won, who lost, and why, and how do we beat their ass next time. So the financial papers is like who making money, who not making money, how can we make more money. So when you read this, you get a sense. Like there's a long story in today's paper about the International Money Fund, about what's going on in Kenya, because the Kenyans is like, F this, Ruto's a millionaire. He came back from DC with the bag. You're not going to pass these laws. They lost a lot of lives in Kenya fighting back against that. So FT is now saying, maybe we need to rethink these austerity measures in Africa. Right, because you want their resources, and the people are pushing back. That's on. Go ahead.
Go to the masthead. I'm just curious. And again, we should have literacy around the
no question.
Go to the masthead. Who's the
teach? All right, here we go. Financial Times masthead.
Who is the publisher? Who is the owner?
They're not like the New York Times. I think their masthead might be at the op-ed. Like the Times is masthead.
It's always it's usually an op-ed, because that's the opinion of the person that runs and owns the paper.
Got it. Yeah.
Op-ed is the opinion of the owner of the paper.
Hold on a minute. Let me see.
Opinion,
hold on.
education.
Let me get yesterday.
And I'm just, for everybody, just go to
this
because
it's very useful.
Then you get to also understand the politics. So like when I was at the New York Daily News, the masthead, you had, the editorial page editor, and then the publisher was Mort Zuckerberg. And then if you do a little research, Mort Zuckerberg is a Canadian billionaire whose specialty is in real estate. So then you start to understand the kinds of stories that will and will not be published. Okay, I can't see my eyes.
Okay, I'm gonna read it right.
Reading glasses.
Financial Times, published by FT Publications, 330 Hudson Street, New York. Okay, editor Rula Khalaf, Roula Khalaf, Khalaf. They're very good about the people they include. Their op-ed columnists, they all aren't white. They have an Indian columnist, a West African columnist. Very interesting how they strategically place these editors. Let me see what else they say here. Printed by,
who's the publisher?
It doesn't say. Hold on. It says published by FT Publications Incorporated. No name. Let me see. The only name on here is the editor. Which is what does that say to us?
It's owned by a Japanese holding company, Nikkei.
There it is.
Okay. Oh all right. So what? What do they specialize in? And then we should be doing this. Okay, it's a Japanese media company. It owns the Financial Times. Its first publication was in 1876. And in 1946, the company name was changed. It's an employee-owned company. Okay, Japanese law does not allow newspaper companies to be publicly traded. Okay, so it's an employee-owned company. That's actually not bad.
Well, I mean, what assumptions do we make about the definition of employee? Does that mean stockholder? I mean, does that mean in his own? It's
not traded. So it's not owned. So there's no shareholders that it has to be beholden to.
But like I seen my man Wayne yesterday when I was walking out, who drives the UPS truck, who brings me a lot of books. Hey, Wayne, what's going on, man? It was almost 100 degrees in DC yesterday. So me and him talking about the weather. So how many more stops you got, Wayne? Wayne, I got 4 more stops. Get home, brother. You got to work tomorrow? No, I ain't got to work tomorrow. Okay, my man, Wayne works for UPS. He's an employee. I doubt he has UPS stock. So when FT, you know what I'm saying? When they say employee owned, what's the level of ownership? Does it go down to the cats that are delivering the paper, the person who put it on my doorstep this morning?
Good question. And that's something that we can ask, right? Because now we have a thread to pull. Now the New York Times juxtaposed it to that. So we know the FT is owned by a Japanese company that it is employee owned. It's been doing this since 1876. The New York Times, who's the publisher?
Sulzberger, A.G. Sulzberger.
Okay, Arthur
Family,
Sulzberger, right? Jr.
Right?
Junior. Is he junior?
Founded in 1851, and it goes from Adolf Ach, as you say, 1896, to Arthur Sulzberger to 1961, Orville Dreyfus, who did 2 years, 61 63, and then back to the Sulzbergers, as you say, Arthur Sulzberger, publisher, 63 to 92. He came Arthur Ox Sulzberger, not to be confused with, and then, as you say, Arthur Ox Sulzberger Jr. from 92 to 2017. And then AG, as you say, takes over. He's the point now. And then they just have the columnists here. They don't have any other information on it, which is now, well, the business side, chief executive officer, financial officer, legal officer, human resources, so forth, the employees. As you know, they outsourced their sports stuff a few years ago. They bought The Athletic. So David Perpich is the publisher rather, of The Athletic. So what is this telling us in terms of the media conglomerates? I mean,
what they will and will not cover, how they will and will not, like what. So I'm always asking, who does it serve? You know, what's the agenda?
What's the agenda?
You know,
and who do they put? It's interesting because this is why I brought it up. And we know that, like you say, you've talked about this a lot. You've taught about it for many years, your students. And, there are those who have different political perspectives, but nobody gets to have their own facts. So when you read, as you say, work on propaganda, and when you see somebody like Noam Chomsky or Edward Herman, when their book Manufacturing Consent, and, what is the other one? Manufacturing Consent was one. And anyway, it'll come to me. But my point is this. You see the role of capitalism and profit making and in generating that kind of profit. But this was yesterday's Times and the people they pick, right? So even to write the stories. No, not Saturday, Friday. Here we are. Donors devise push for Biden to leave race. This was Ken Vogel, Theodore Schleffer, and Lauren Hirsch. And this is probably, that headline is as far as most people who are relying on social media and themselves to hit him. After several days of quiet griping and hoping that President Biden would abandon his re-election campaign on his own, many wealthy Democratic donors are trying to take matters into their own hands. Wielding their fortunes as both carrot and stick, donors have undertaken a number of initiatives to pressure Mr. Biden to step down from the top of the ticket and help lay the groundwork for an alternative candidate. Okay, no news there, except if you're paying attention to everything else. Again, Alanda Sepeda said, look at it, and then you got to attach your eyes to your brain. The billionaire class, the big money class, has not moved to Trump. There have been story after story in Financial Times and a lot of other sources that are saying that they are not moving. Now, you got some straight fascists like Sheldon Adelman's widow and some others in Ackerman and them who are going to prop Trump up. But most of that money is not moved to Trump because, again, their interest is money. So if you read this story and mistake Democratic donors with all the rest of that money, you might miss it. But let's continue because we ain't at the story yet.
Wait, before you go, I'm sorry. I'm not.
No, this is great. This is what we do.
I want to know, like, so don't the billionaires want Trump in office because they get tax?
No.
Don't they get tax breaks? So because they also know that he will ruin their ability to keep making money.
He's about to mess up. Look, these people, you got people, again, this is so powerful. Thanks, Prof. And I know you just asked that to make sure we focused on it. These people, I'm talking about human beings who do this. The people breathing in the world, this system is running out of ways to oppress and suppress. There was an article in yesterday's Financial Times talking about how the columnist asked the question. He said, why does the right wing in the United States of America have to work so hard, or why do they work so hard to recruit for and from the military if the military is naturally right wing? He said the point is they're not. And if you think about the number of our people, and I saw them Negroes on Wednesday, when was it? Thursday, white Juneteenth. I went down to the National Mall. I went down to the 4th of July parade, which was incredible. I go down there to see for myself. Just like I used to go to Macy's parade if I can get to New York. Because what you see on television ain't the reality. I think they had every black person that worked for the DC Fire Department, the police, the transit, cleaning up trash, everybody selling water was black. Now, of course, it wasn't everybody. There were a sprinkling of others, but primarily, it seemed like almost exclusively for long stretches, all I saw was black people in uniform and black people working, including, I understand Continental Africans, I understand Afro-Caribbeans, including one brother, Rasta, who I actually sat there and listened to for about 20 minutes while I'm watching the parade, which was so thin. I was like, damn, this thing is going down. But at any rate, finally I was like, Rastafari, Rastafari. Everything on this man's table was Trump. Trump 2024, Trump hats. He had a Trump t-shirt on. The brothers, the continental Africans selling Trump. I ain't seen no Biden Harris. I ain't seen nothing but Trump, right? Because you know that the fascists come to the parade, and then everybody I saw who I might think, well, maybe your politics is a little different, they wearing American flags. Anyway, I went through all that to say this. I'm saying these people in uniform with these guns on their hips, these DC police, I saw National Guard out there. I said, these are not white people. And the white people I saw, I'm assuming you ain't rich. Now, if you've been in the military, you got your pension, that's fine. I'm saying, why does the right wing work so hard? Because you can't count on the military naturally. You might think you can, but there may come a day like LeVar Burton might mess around and get somebody in the back of his hand if they say the wrong thing. There may come a day when those people will not turn their guns on the people who look like them because they actually came from them. Don't let that uniform fool you. That's that underlying rage. I'm saying all that to say that business people understand Trump's bad for business. You might think he's good for your bank account. He's good for your tax breaks. In fact, yesterday's Financial Times had an article below the fold. Rich pensioners miss out as Portugal revives tax breaks to attract foreigners. What Portugal is doing, because they're the poorest country in Europe, on mainland Europe, they have a new center-right government. These center-right governments taking over all over Europe and many places over the world. They're threatening folk. Joaquim Miranda Sarmiento, finance minister, told Financial Times that the move would attract people to the country as part of a package of 60 measures unveiled yesterday designed to stimulate growth. The tax breaks were introduced in 2009 to aid Portugal's recovery from financial crisis, but scrapped last year by the socialist government, who they ran out. They still control the parliament, though, which branded them a, quote, fiscal injustice that had driven up house prices in one of Eurozone's lowest income economies. This is not where I'm going with this. I'm going to mention this. What they're doing now is saying that Portugal is going to give tax breaks to foreigners to come live in Portugal. Now, the Nordic nations are mad, Finland and Sweden, because their tax rates are very high. That's where you have the healthcare, you have education, this kind of thing. But Portugal is going to exclude Portuguese people because Portugal's trying to figure out a way to make money, to attract people with money to come live in Portugal. At the same time, they don't want to give a break to the people already there. And in fact, they said that, here it is, the Nordic nations led complaints that the incentive was luring retirees who stopped paying tax in their home countries. Portugal initially made pensions exempt from tax, but later introduced a 10% flat rate tax in response to the criticism. Why? Because here it is. Miranda Sarmiento, who serves in a fragile government that lacks a parliamentary majority, said the reintroduced regime would offer the same 20% flat rate of income tax, but cover only salaries and professional income. So, rich people ain't making their money off salaries. So they want the tax exempt for the people who making their money off stocks, who making their money off cap gains, y'all come live in Portugal. It's beautiful climate, weather. Finland and Sweden's like, whoa, what the hell? We tax everybody. Oh, no. We want y'all to come here. But this should look, Portuguese companies are likely to welcome the return of the 20% rate. They struggle to attract skilled overseas workers willing to pay the 48% top tax rate imposed on incomes above a threshold of 81,199 euros. Pause. The top tax rate in Portugal starts at the equivalent of maybe what we would say $75,000 to $80,000 a year. It's a 48% tax rate on that. Do you understand how much then this country people don't pay into a system and then want to talk about even giving themselves more tax breaks? Anyway, I started to say this. Business, chaos, social unrest is bad for business. So the business people have not moved in no inexorable march toward Trump because they know he's a fool and they know his lying notwithstanding. And thank you, Larry. It's Larry's birthday, y'all. It's Larry's birthday today.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Please
it's
wish her
Larry's birthday.
Yes, it
Happy
is.
birthday, Larry. Look, I see everybody in Nubia is wishing
Come on.
Larry Daniels favors happy
No.
birthday, right?
I meant to say, and she's 40 fine today.
No
40
question.
fine. Yes,
Come
she
on,
is.
Larry. Come on, sis. Because Larry has been preaching this, right? And you have too. But I say, this is the whole point. You got to understand. Larry trying to walk people through this. Don't assume what's going on television is what's going on behind the scenes. It just takes a little bit of research. the money ain't moved toward Trump, chaos is bad for business. Understand? But I said all that to say this. That ain't even the point. Here's yesterday's paper. Remember, we were reading from the article, Donors Devise Push for Biden to Leave Race, vowing to steer cash to others as rift grows. We went through the first several. Now here it is. Paragraph 1, after several days, they're trying to take matters in their own hands. Paragraph 2, they're going to wield their fortunes as carrot and stick to try to get them to step down. But paragraph 3, here's the money paragraph. The efforts, some coordinated, some conflicting, and others still nascent, in other words, they're just getting started, expose a remarkable and growing rift between the party's contributor class, between the party's contributor class and its standard bearer that could have an impact on down ballot races, whether or not the donors influence Mr. Biden's decision. Now that's the gateway. Actually, the next paragraph is the one. Well, 2 more paragraphs. So the first hint as to what's really going on is right there in the 3rd paragraph. They worried about the down ballot races. So which Congress people and which governors have you seen telling him you should quit? These are people who are afraid of losing their little lightweight white nationalist edge. Oh, y'all about to mess up though. These fool congressmen anyway, I'm not even gonna name no names. Just do the research for your own. Let's go to the next paragraph. It says, the president on Wednesday reaffirmed his commitment to stay in the race amid criticism of his weak debate performance last week, but that has not placed donors or strategists who worry, that has not placated donors or strategists who worry that he cannot win in November. Now, here's the paragraph. Listen very carefully to this next paragraph. A group of them is working to raise as much as $100 million for a sort of escrow fund called the Next Generation PAC that would be used to support a replacement candidate. Now that's next sentence. Here it is. If Mr. Biden does not step aside, he's saying he's stepping aside. If Mr. Biden does not step aside, the money could be used to help down ballot candidates, according to people close to the effort. There you go. Biden told people he's not stepping aside. They're going to use, some of them are probably saying, we're going to use this, step aside, take this money, put it in an escrow. He ain't going nowhere. Okay, we got to shore up all these down ballot people who we're afraid, the white nationalists, which they have no evidence for. Clay Kane told y'all to stop, don't trust them polls, don't trust. And then I love how y'all started the serious snap poll and the black people overwhelmingly like, don't step aside. In other words, these people are raising money. One of the reasons is if and when he say, I'm not going nowhere, they keep pumping money into the down ballot races. They're playing a game that we're not paying attention to because we're not even looking, much less attached to our eyes, our brains. But here's the other thing. This is why reading the physical paper is, in my mind, superior if you must pick, but you don't have to pick. Everybody can go online. I go online. I don't just read the New York Times, Financial Times, the China Today. I don't just read USA Today. I don't just read the African websites. I mean, there's some great ones. I don't read the Caribbean. I don't read the Gleaner out of Jamaica. I don't read, the Independent out of England for the right wing, and then go to the Guardian. Man, I don't just read them. I read them online, but I read the physical paper because it also gives me clues. Watch this. So, Prof, let me ask you one more question. Who makes the decision for what goes here? Now that you've explained some of the reasons that they go where they go, who makes those decisions?
So there are 2 meetings. There's actually there are a bunch of meetings, but the first, there's a meeting with just the editors, the top editors, right?
Those are the people in the masthead we saw.
Yes. Yes. And so the op-ed editor may be in that meeting, maybe not, because there's like a church and state. So again, the opinion, the op-ed is the publisher's voice. And so the publisher talks directly to that editor about what the positions are. And then there's the editor of the paper, and it's supposed to be church and state. But and I know didn't.
Which is interesting because a couple of days ago they had the opinion columnists weigh in on Trump should resign, Biden should resign, Biden, and Charles Blow was on the don't. Ross Duhat, I don't know why we do know why they gave Ross Duhat a damn column in the New York Times. Why y'all let these fascists anyway? So okay, it's supposed to be separates church state.
Because you have to have both sides, Dr. Carr. Because there's this assumption that there are 2 sides. There's this assumption that somehow there's 2 sides, and there aren't 2 sides. There's many sides, but also there's right and wrong. And at
Oh,
some point,
there's right
if
and wrong,
we're
right?
not operating under right and wrong, then everything else is ridiculous.
That's
You
exactly
know?
right. That's exactly right.
And usually, and we've never been able to depend on our media to make that determination.
Well, black media, we could.
Black media always, but the media that
Well, not anymore.
consumes us, right? Because we don't really have black media, and I'm not
Right.
start disparaging folk. You know, I
No.
saw Roland and Urban View, but even that, in terms of what Charlie Loeb did, Charles,
Yes.
what all the defenders and all, we don't have that. What Ida B. Wells was doing, we don't have that today. Not really, because there's still this chase to be paid.
Well, we have it,
Still this chase.
except we don't have the platform. Like, it's very interesting. Again, these synergies now that you feel like, here's a guy, Gerald Horn, who writes all the time. He's already on Wednesday. Lamont and I had him on because we had it. Gerald is probably not consumable for people who have live in Andy Cohen world. But in that moment, there was a convergence that was enabled because you've been able to carve out Urban View as a place where that information flows from morning to night and then repeat and then on the app. So is Urban View like an extension of what used to be the commercial appeal and the Chicago Defender and the Pittsburgh Courier? I mean, I'm just asking.
I thought of it as a bridge, right? So the 40 million people that subscribe to Sirius XM, maybe less now, how do we grab enough people who pay for radio? So it's behind a paywall, which is a particular kind of person. Not everybody's going to pay for radio. Not everyone's going to make that sacrifice, because it's a sacrifice, right? Maybe you don't get a Dunkin' Donuts, like it's, maybe a cup of coffee every day or whatever.
Until it's Netflix. And by the way, the CEO of Netflix apparently has now come out and told Biden to resign, which lets me know Barack Obama in the conversation. But anyway, go ahead. But go ahead, because Obama's got all that money deal with Netflix. Now the CEO of Netflix, and basically is paying for Netflix a sacrifice, bro? Because people pay for Netflix.
Yeah, well, we've been conditioned, and again, I struggle with this because we've been conditioned to love these things, right?
Of course,
our palate,
we've been conditioned to love America,
right? Our palates are so damaged.
Well, some people,
Most of us have damaged palates, right? You have to,
That's true.
wean yourself off of sugar, like, how do you do that, right? We're addicted to these things, right? So Netflix is not as much of a sacrifice as we believe in necessity, because we want to be in, we don't want to have FOMO, we don't want to miss out on what everybody's talking about. If they're talking about Bridgerton or Game of Thrones, what we want to have all be in on all the conversations that matter to us, not at all, but it's an appetite thing, right? So So if we have that appetite, then that's what we're gonna, So people behind the paywall at SiriusXM, if you are a subscriber, that's a sacrifice, right? Some of you get it in your car for free for a few months, but if you keep going with it, now you're committed, right? And that doesn't mean that everybody is well read or that they know what's going on. But they at least care enough to want to be a part of something, just like folk that join Knarrative. That's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice to be in community with people, because that there's an earnest desire for us to be free.
That's right.
There's an earnest desire for us to know, because knowledge is the pathway. So what I decided to do was to build a bridge. Like, we're going to have some fun. We do that teaspoon of sugar to help that medicine go down, every day. Lamont is there with you, who's a comedian, sitting there with, because some people are like, why are you putting a comedian? Because it works. It's a bridge. It's an entree point. Maybe it opens somebody's chakras.
There's a conversion.
Right. So you can have a Gerald Horn, and it's not like academic.
Exactly.
It's not like I'm tuning out, because the entree into this is through this bridge that we built. So
that's true.
It works. I don't know what y'all do. By the way, if you don't have SiriusXM, get it, because Dr. Carr and Lamont King and Shauna Renee on Mondays, on me on Tuesday, the Urban View morning y'all set the table. I was listening all week. Oh my God, that Wednesday. Wednesday.
You got us going. I mean. And then I couldn't turn away then, because, Larita and Clayton and this is the time it's built for. We got to have it. And so that curation, again, you being able to curate and then coming together and people having that synergy. That's why I asked about this headline, because these are.
And I just want to say one thing, having that social justice warrior in there. Before her, it was Laura Coates was on at 10 o'clock on Urban View. Joe Madison laying the foundation. Now you guys have been tasked, a bunch of voices, to lay the foundation in the mornings to set the day right. Laree coming in with that social justice warrior. That woman, let me just say, and I know she speaks fast and maybe in a lot of voices, To
We
me, it's
all speak fast.
highly entertaining. Highly entertaining. I love that show. And then Clay's gonna come in, and Reese is gonna be there most days, but he's always gonna bring in experts. But that man does more research than
Yeah.
anybody. Like
Yeah.
that man's preparation game is
Yeah.
unmatched. In the book, The Grift, thank you for that.
No
And then I just try to, make sure I don't mess stuff up at 3:00. But but my
Oh,
commitment is to
no.
make sure. No, I'm not being humble, but
No,
my
you
commitment
converge that.
make
It's
sure.
great. And then you don't let people off the hook.
No.
Between Clay and myself, like I say, Alan Lichtman, I messed up because I always get the new edition of Lichtman's books. But this time I was a little slow, and now they're on back order. But I heard him say the other day, he said, I want to get Alan Lichtman on.
Got the 12 points. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a time now for clarity. We should not be listening to, with all due respect to entertainers, ball chasers, whoever you want to say, Leonard McKelvey. I mean, we shouldn't be listening to people who, and your clue as to who we should not be listening to. Let me just pause there. But yeah, listen to that. I mean, and it's important. And we're not dead yet. The black press that was shut out of the debate is still alive. The Atlanta Daily World is still alive. The Commercial Appeal still, but the Baltimore Afro, the Washington Afro still. But Denise Rollard Barnes here with the Washington Informer. Roland's got the Black Star Network. I mean, you have to go to the NNPA, National. Sirius has carved this space out. It exists at the center of a constellation of black spaces that are more important now than ever. Do not go to the. I hate to say, don't go to the. In fact, we're going to try to get these people on. Have you talked? I don't think.
No, I was just going to say. You asked the question. What's the difference?
Yes,
I wrote it down because I get.
Yes.
Ida B. Wells or the Defender, Chicago, the Defender, all of these papers.
Truth Seeker out of Memphis, no question. Ida Wells, no doubt.
The difference was we were literally fighting for our lives. Ida B. Wells was going around the country reporting on lynchings. Like we were literally fighting for our lives.
That's right.
And I think we've gotten comfortable. We've gotten real comfortable. And so we talk about these things and they're important, but the sense of urgency that we're now getting closer to, this is a time when we're probably going to have a resurgence in the kind of media that we deserve to have. But now we don't have the training.
Well, that's the challenge, right? I mean, we were talking about that
training.
We were talking about that Monday night. I was reading a conversation between Greg Tate and Toni Morrison, and Miss Morrison said at one stage, she said, every generation passed on to the next generation what we might call the playbook, the experiences. And then she said, but it's almost as if one generation forgot to speak. I mean, it was a powerful metaphor because it's Toni Morrison, but it wasn't that one generation forgot to speak. It was that there was a concerted effort to smash the pipelines.
That's right.
The black press didn't go out of business. The Negro Leagues didn't go out of business. Andrew Rube Foster was like, we're going to integrate. I want the Chicago American Giants, the Cuban X Giants. I want the Homestead Grays. I want them to come into White Nation League Baseball as black teams. And Branch Rickey and them, hell no, we'll take Robinson. Give me Satchel Paige for a few laughs. I mean, we're not taking your whole team. What you think we're trying to do? We're trying to make this money. We're not trying to have you. The black press, cherry picking the reporters that came out of the black press that went into the white press, or the people like Mal Good at Pittsburgh Court. And then you have a Dorothy Gilman who comes in, who's still here. If you read her book Trailblazer, as I know, having talked with her, she, the Post and them, let's get a few Negroes in. But what does that do to the black newspapers?
And I was just going to say, I can't be the one. Like there's so much institutional knowledge that I don't even know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know some things. No, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm the one, there's a problem. Do you know? Like, I understand. I'm good, but there's greatness that we have lost. That that part of this journey that we're on is to reclaim that. Right?
Joe Madison, Karen Hunter. There it is. That would be my answer. In other words, there's no one, but there are clear genealogies, and you in one. All that work from your time primarily as a print journalist. All that work, and when you say Chuck Stone, it's not a theory. It's not somebody you read. No, I knew these people in the National Association of Black Journal. I was in NABJ. So I'm not just talking about people who are now being quote unquote recovered because they were quote unquote lost. No, it was mouth to ear. It was hand to hand. It was life to life.
So you are in there. I also wasn't bought in. I was not. Let me just be 100% transparent. Wasn't bought into the NABJ. I was not, I was on the other side. That's what I'm saying. I was on the other side of this.
So you didn't know any of those black journalists?
I made it my business to know the ones that I work with. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yes,
That's all I'm saying.
Joy Shelby's and all that,
Yeah.
the McAllisters and the Clem
Maybe not the
Richardsons,
formation, but some of the
no.
people in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely, the people, because
Yeah.
I always kind of rejected the institutions as people, as a group of people that gathered and did nothing. So I assessed that in my 20s. Maybe I was wrong, but I was like, all y'all do is party. Nobody's getting a job. I reject that. So
How
I don't.
about that? How about that?
I'm not
And,
gonna
and,
be a part of that.
as do I. No question.
Yeah,
I'm
so
with
I was
you.
like,
I'm with you.
so I was not in those institutions. Is my point. I was
Okay.
always almost on the pick me side, and as
But not
somebody
quite.
that kind of not quite because I'm too conscious. Well, I was like, oh, y'all trying this. All right, let me sabotage this situation real quick. Let me get in and then psych, flip, and then pay for it because I always paid for it. Let me just
No
tell
question.
you, they do
No
not like
question.
that. They do not like you getting in and then you flipping on them. They
Which is
hate
what
that.
LeVar Burton said. He said, I did one thing for charity, and one of my sponsors dropped me because I used the F word. Right, for charity.
But you busy effing people.
How about that?
Busy
Again,
effing people. You mad at me saying it?
mad at me saying it. And
All right.
again, look, to be very clear, we're not, anyway, let's not
All
else.
right.
So as I was asking you about how this is curated, and then you went on to describe not only how this is curated, but how media is curated, including what you're doing with Sirius. This curation, this combination fascinated me.
Meetings, and then they determine what the headlines are going to be, and there are different meetings on that.
Yes.
Which picture we're going to use, and none of the reporters are really in on that. So
This is the election. This is the English election. They're happy.
They decide before they cover it how they're going to cover it.
Okay.
This is what you need to know.
So
I've been sent out on assignment and told what the damn story was. So I knew as a journalist I have to come back with that story because this is what they told me the story is before I went out there. So I, as a reporter, which is what I'm saying, like not everything is nefarious. As a reporter, young reporter, I was like, well, this is the story that they're looking for. I have to come back with those because there's a reward for me coming back with the story that they think it is in that meeting that they had.
Yes. And so as a young reporter, like you say, you're being sent, you're being kind of moved around. You get more senior, and then there are the names that those who read the newspapers kind of are aware of. The Maggie Habermans, for example, complicit. Let me not say it. What's the one? Anyway, I'm not going to start thinking. Judith Miller, that was the name came to mind out of the Iraq War. Peter Baker, for example. Now, what does this tell you, Prof? Again, here's the article we were reading from. Donors devise push for Biden to leave race. And the money paragraph on the front page, anyway, before we get into it, is the last one where they say they're going to raise $100 million. And if Biden says no, they might use it for, meaning will, use it for down ballot races. But here we go in the L. So here we are. What does this tell you? Right underneath the picture, next to this in the print edition, is this story. Breakthrough, in quotes, is seen in renewed talks for ceasefire in Gaza. Peter Baker. Oh, no. Baker was today. This is Aaron Boxerman, Michael Shear, and Thomas Fuller. Jerusalem. American and Israeli officials on Thursday expressed renewed optimism over a ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip after Hamas revised its position, and Prime Minister of Israel then told President Biden that he was sending a new delegation of negotiators to the stalled talks. Why put this article next to this article? This is what I think. Anyway, you ain't any.
You know why?
Well, why?
Because they're tied.
They are tied.
Yeah.
Okay. As an editorial decision, this is tied, right? You said national, international. Yep. Okay, it's tied. Okay. Here's what I think the ties. In fact, I scribbled this on the bottom here. I think what I scribbled, I said the appearance of empire difference. Yeah, let me explain what I meant by that. I was reading paper yesterday. Let me be very clear. And Gerald talks about this all the time. He says, remember at the end of our conversation, me and Lamont with him, we asked him, what should we do? And he's like, we're stuck. Coming from Gerald Horn, that should tell you all you need to know as a point of entry to begin to understand how Black people are stuck in this country. Meaning what? He says the GOP, the Republicans, are open domestic fascists. They're also nativists. So they're not interventionists. These are the people who, if it was the 1930s, might say, let Hitler do what the hell he want. Y'all stay at home. Ironically, that was Joe Kennedy. But anyway, point is this. You just kind of stay out of it, right? He says the Democrats are imperialists when it comes to foreign policy. They're expansionists. They're going to get in every war, do whatever the hell, you know what I'm saying? He said, African people everywhere and oppressed people everywhere do themselves no favor, in fact, work against their own interests when they restrict themselves only to the Black America has never made any progress by exclusively fighting within the borders of the United States. You think slavery ended simply because Black people were fighting in the United States and they had a civil war? No. Everything happens in an international context. The Haitian Revolution did more to advance the cause of oppressed African people in the United States than any other single event, being part of a hemispheric work of a revolt. And we talked about that over and over again. Anyway, let me get to the point I'm trying to make about how these two work together. As you say, they are linked. You've explained to us how that they do this. Now they link. So I read this and I said to myself, Biden has been getting killed over Gaza. He should be getting killed over Congo. Shout out again to Sam Livingston and his fam who held that flag up behind him in Morehouse. He should be getting killed over Sudan and Haiti. The Kenyans are giving Ruto holy hell behind this tax bill that he pulled off the table a couple of weeks ago, and that Haiti invasion that he didn't agree to because Biden gave him a bag. Because the Democrats, Jerry Holmes would say, they're expansionists, they're imperialists. It's not a good look. It's terrible. That's why the young people took in 10 encampments. That's why we all out in the streets. Hell no, all the genocide, the stuff in Congo, everything. As African people, we become more and more aware. All right, now, that having been said, how these two linked? Domestically, Biden, Harris, the Democrats have a case to make. They have a case to make about everything from lowered prescription drug prices to student loan forgiveness, all across the board, broadband, internet access. You start talking about labor, the jobs are continuing to go up. The wages need to go up too, but minimum wage has gone up on a number of policies, the federal government, all of these, the stimulus packages, all of this work. You can read that, and then here comes the person say, well, what about Gaza? It's an L. Meanwhile, the fascist liars, led by a brain-addled, convicted sexual assault, he's standing here saying, and the media gonna ignore him. But guess what? What is our clue? That the people who are not moneyed, the people who are not media people running these companies, owning these companies, the people who are not politicians, what is our clue? That regular people are having an impact? BB at the table. Guess who been on the phone with BB talking about, look, man, I'm about to lose this election behind this bullshit. Y'all got to squash this beef. For it to make to the front page of the New York Times, breakthrough is seen as renewed talk for ceasefire in Gaza. But guess what? Did the editors have an argument over putting breakthrough in quotation marks? Probably, because there's some Zionists in here. Probably it's like, don't put no breakthrough. All right, fine. We're going to put it on. We're going to put quotation marks. Fine. My point is this. The reason that Israel is even at the table at all, even as Hezbollah has bombed from Lebanon yesterday, all this is going on, is because people around the world are in the streets. And in Europe, there are real tensions. They're celebrating because the Tories got turned out of power. That don't mean that labor is going to be a panacea, a silver bullet, but it does mean open fascism in terms of their anti-immigrant, anti-everything approach, at least has been beaten back in the short term in England. Actually, the short term, it's been 20 years since they've had almost a labor government. In France, they are literally, as we are here right now, they are peeing on themselves. Because the Olympics, let me see if that is yesterday's paper. And here we go. Page 4 of yesterday's Financial Times. And then I want a couple more things, then we'll get out of here for today. Macron's irresponsible snap poll clouds Olympic preparations. Friends, Emmanuel Macron's move to call snap elections has cast a shadow over the Paris Olympic Games, raising the possibility of political unrest and a far-right government in charge of the world's biggest sporting event. The far-right Rassemblement National is projected to become the biggest parliamentary party after the runoff vote on Sunday. While a hung parliament appears to be the most likely outcome, hung parliament, look back to South Africa last month. ANC don't have the majority. DA, oh my God, not them. Okay, they got 20%. Then MK, Mkonto Sizwe, Zuma and them, and then EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters. So you got to build a coalition parliament because nobody has the majority. They're saying more than likely this time tomorrow we'll be talking about France having a hung parliament. But let's continue in that paragraph. While a hung parliament appears the most likely outcome, if the RN were to win a majority, its 28-year-old party chief, Jordan Bardella, could be prime minister when the games open on July 26th, with his team greeting athletes and dignitaries from across the world. The timing of Macron's decision to dissolve parliament was, quote, catastrophic for the games, end quote, said Pascal Boniface, head of the Paris-based think tank IRIS and an expert on the politics of sport. Quote, we are in the thickest of fog over the future. The point is this. On this front page, yesterday's New York Times, some of the money people with Biden's like, look, man, you gotta go. Is he going? He ain't going. Okay, let's raise this money and we'll have to shore him up from behind. Then it's like, hey, foreign policy, damn it, you better stop. We need those votes. My point is this. This is the only point I'm trying to make. We need to pay attention to try to figure out what they're doing, but the most important power we have is to do what we can do. They have moved the needle on foreign policy because they scared as hell. They're going to end up like France. Come on, France. Oh, go ahead, Brock.
No, I want to co-sign on that. I was looking at some comments talking about media, and we've been banging on media. But the reality is media is going to give you what you ask for pretty much. Yes, they are. The job of media is to be the third wall or to hold back, to be the facts and all. But really, in this current climate, it's about commerce. So we teach people how to treat us. And if this is what we want, trash, they're going to give us trash. If we want candy, they're going to give us candy. So we have to change our appetites. This is, to me, the conversation today should be about, what do you care about? Where are your attentions? What are you clicking on? What are you leaning into? You're telling the world what you want, and they're following the algorithm. And they're giving you, if this is the clarion call, because they're lazy. Have they talked to everybody?
No.
Like we did that a little experiment on Urban View, and the overwhelming amount of people were like, no.
You sure did.
So did they talk to us? Who are they talking to, right? So they're only in their little tiny spaces, imagining the world through very, very narrow lenses, and they're giving it to you. So the two things are happening at the same time. They're pushing out those messages, like you just pointed out. At the same time, they're giving us what they see on social media. Regurgitating it back to us, because how many reporters have lost their jobs? How many investigative teams are there at newspapers, international teams? They don't have any real good journalists, in mass out there doing this where they can come back, because it takes years of study.
Yes,
it's all knee-jerk snap, TikTok, Instagram. They're scrolling and then they're feeding it back to you in good English.
That's right. That's right.
And that becomes the reality, right? You say something enough times and everyone's repeating it. Everyone's repeating the headlines because nobody's really reading.
No.
And now, so we're responsible for raising the bar by raising it on ourselves first and demanding more, right? Because if we start taking our eyeballs and our money elsewhere, guess where they're going to go? Right? Like you said,
the money.
Like the Negro Baseball League was successful.
So
they're like,
that simple. It's that simple.
Music. So what's this hip hop thing? Oh, shoot. They black medallions and what are they doing? Okay, let's give
them that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Give it right back to them, but in our image.
Now what do you do when it's interesting you say that? Here we are in June 2024. And clearly the evasion is all out. So that if Biden is incapacitated, because they're also running these articles now, you've seen them and commented on them on his private conversation as opposed to his public and then George Stephanopoulos, as you and Lurie, I saw y'all was wasting all this time. Will you take a test? Will your mama take a test? I mean, in other words, why don't you ask Donald Trump about the test he failed? He can't even remember the guy who gave him the test.
Listen, but the biggest ether, Megyn Kelly out there, and somebody ethered her. I won't use all the colorful language, but basically said your father's whole brain was eaten with cancer and he worked to the last day.
Come on.
Right? He was there, thumb down. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Boom, was still in the hunt. And you
talking about not Megyn Kelly.
Megyn McCain.
McCain. To the last day.
In person.
And y'all gave him Harold.
And you sat there and cried with Joe Biden, who was there to comfort you. And you saying these things? Really? Your father showed up he was dying. But it was important enough to show up out of his hospital bed then no, I'm not supporting this bull crap.
That's right. And we know that this isn't a morality tale. This is cold. Mario says this all the time, Dr. Beatty. When he's trying to make a point devoid of emotion, trying to get right, he says, I looked at it cold. That's one of his favorite. I looked at it cold. We had to look at this cold. You know what I'm saying? In other words, politicians are not sports. These are not entertainers. You're not your friends. If they're nice, that's a bonus, but you want to use them. One of the columnists that they recruited to say what should happen suggested that Joe Manchin be the candidate of the Democratic Party. In other words, this is foolishness that we're talking about now. You got to look at it cold. I'm saying that to say that a lot of conversation, and I'm glancing now as you were pulling it up both in the YouTube chat and in the Knarrative Nubia chat, what about Kamala Harris? Well, it's very clear that this money class has no confidence in her. They think they're looking at it cold. They want to skip over her. And if Biden is indeed in somehow compromised in a way that will become more and more evident between now and August, we're all going to have a front row seat to it. And either way, he says he's not going to quit. So there may be if there was a brokered convention, instead of an anointing of the vice president, which would happen if she were a white woman, if she was Gretchen Whitmer, who he wanted to pick, as we all know, then if you try to slip Whitmer in, if we try to slip in Gavin Newsom, that might be the thing that will allow the Democrats to win, or it might be the thing that makes them lose. Again, we're not looking at it cold. We're reacting because people are not looking at politics cold. I said I had to say this point right here. This is July 2024. In November 2023, The Atlantic ran a magazine in their November 2023 issue, cover The Patriot. What does a general do when the commander-in-chief undermines the Constitution? Jeffrey Goldberg. You see in Mark Milley, at Fort Myers, September 2023. In other words, we are watching this stuff as if it's this. Actually, no, because this is scripted too. I mean, Andy Cohen, we're looking at this like it's happening in real time. The people who are trying to read the tea leaves and put their money someplace and control politics, they've been talking, but that's not the article I wanted to get to. The article I wanted to get to is on page 46. This article,
oh my God.
No one seems to think Kamala Harris is ready to be president. Here's what they're missing. This is November 2023, friends. You see, look, Alanda Sepeda try to tell y'all you can see it, but if it don't attach to your brain, we don't even remember what we were talking about in 2023 of November. We don't even remember. Joe Biden stumbled over some stuff while speaking facts next to a whole ass raving racist lunatic. And for 8 days, like sheep driven into the pen, a race of children has debated whether he should withdraw from the race. Meanwhile, there are clearly, isn't this just a faction? It's probably a plurality or more of these politicos that don't want Kamala Harris nowhere near the White House for race reasons, for gender reasons, not for ability or inability to control.
What is your qualification for being president?
You got to be able to be president first. In other words, you got to get in the chair. That's why they are willing to take a self-celebratory vagina grabber who've been convicted of all kind of stuff. They are willing to put this piece of human trash back in the chair because it allows them access to the thing they want access to. And it is so close to them now that they can taste it. So the first qualification is we got to get you in the chair. And,
who's them, Dr. Carr?
Well, these are the people who have interests. What are their interests? In fact, it's all of us, really. Those of us who only have our vote and ability to organize, which ultimately the ability to organize is the foundation for everything else. Our interest is a better society, theoretically. But I guess every human's interest is a better society. But there are people who we don't agree on what that means. For the billionaire class, their interest in a better society is I need 5 more jets. I need to eat 15 different types of food. And I don't give a damn whether you live or die. A better society for me means, and then once a year, I'll give y'all $5 and go to church and pray to someone who had been wholly opposed to everything I'm doing, but I've lied to myself. And then when I die, I go to the dirt. I don't think there's anything after this, because I couldn't possibly think there's anything after this if I've treated you this way and call myself a Christian. So there's that. I think most of the people who call themselves Christians in that class are probably atheists. But anyway, that haven't been said. The other people, the people in Kenya who are in the streets, the people in Haiti who are pushing back against the Kenya invasion with this international community invasion force backed by the United States through the UN, the people in the streets in Paris who are like, wait a minute, you want to revoke birthright citizenship that you've had since 1515 to get rid of me and send me back where I came from, and which I never would have left if you hadn't been there interfering with me in the first place. The people in the streets in England who are saying Labour is better than the Tories, but I'm still suffering in Brixton. I'm still suffering out here. I'm still got unemployment. So I need Labour now to do something different. And now that y'all are in, they in, okay, let's bang on them harder than we were banging on the Tories. The people who are down in Brazil, where you see Bolsonaro, his ass going to jail because they got a court system in Brazil, and they put Lula da Silva back in because they tried to imprison him, the right wing. The people in the streets, in other words, all over the United States. The war in Gaza must stop. The ceasefire in Gaza. You got to stop what you're doing in Congo. How you interfering? All of those people have the interest of taking the resources of the state, if indeed it is possible, and we got to believe it's possible. You've said that. And redistribute those resources in ways that we can all live to our full human potential. Our eyes, our skin, our breath is seeing as the wildfires rage again in the western part of the United States, as the hurricane basically wipes out the infrastructure of Grenada, and you see the Prime Minister Gonzalez saying, man, they've wiped out our nation. We're going to build again. Mia Amor Motley comes on television a couple of days ago after the Beryl comes through and hits the edge of Barbados, something that never happens, as Lamont brought up on Wednesday morning on Sirius. The whole point, here's Mia Amor Motley said, I've been screaming bloody murder. And we've, how many times, Prophet, we had that conversation on Saturdays right here when she's standing at the UN, when she's at CARICOM, when she's in Europe, and saying, you people who are not doing anything for global warming, you know, the first L is going to be taken is people in the Caribbean. Those people collectively, meaning the people who ain't in elected office, the people who are not billionaires or millionaires or even thousandaires, and the politicians who they can, through collective action, put in place like Amir Omar Motley, and too few here in the United States like that, although there are some, regardless of what we think about their personalities and not whether they are completely pure in heart and all this kind of thing. The people like, I saw Tiffany in, I think maybe in the YouTube streets, Tiffany Deline Laughlin is organizing with these young people to do, the people that William Barber, who went down there last Saturday after we got off and went down to the Poor People's Campaign and low wage assembly and voting, added to that, connected with that. And I looked at this huge group of people who have been bussed into Washington, D.C., so many black people and so many white people and so many Latinos, Asians. In other words, this multi-racial coalition coming together because millions of people in this country without health care, millions of people who don't have a living wage coming to Washington, D.C. saying, we're not just coming to rally, we are also then going to move to transform the society by organizing and applying our ballots to, and our vote tool to changing this by putting in politicians that will push this policy. That is their agenda for creating a better society. Not the billionaire interest, not the philanthropic interest, but the power of people. Now, all that having been said is when we ignore the obvious, we suffer. Cha-Cha Sepeda ignored the obvious. In the first pages of Hindsight and Inside, he said, my eyes were good enough to get to the Baseball Hall of Fame, but they were not good enough to understand that I was about to get pinched when I flew into Puerto Rico with all that marijuana, and they had been watching me the whole time. In his obituaries, these social structure obituaries mention this. But guess what? He started with that in his own memoir. I effed up, but that ain't my story. But my point is that when we ignore the obvious, when we don't allow our eyes, our senses to inform our brain, we suffer. He suffered with prison for a moment. We suffer with global warming. It's about to be almost 100 degrees here in the DMV again today. It was like it was yesterday. The wildfires are raging. The hurricanes coming in. Up in the front part of the alphabet, not K like Katrina. Now we up in the A's and B's for Beryl. This question requires us to recover the momentum of our memory and act accordingly. To make sense of a polity of 303 million people like in the United States, that means that we have to track these comings and goings in every moment and conduct ourselves accordingly. Mama Toya, I saw you in the Nubian chat said that y'all were at the cookout last week after the BET Awards. The conversation was about what Taraji said about Project 2025. That's critical. There is somebody in here who simply will ignore what their eyes and ears are telling them, not attached to their brain. And when the addled, racist, sexist, convicted assaulter Donald Trump would say, I don't know about Project 2025. I don't know about, they would say, well, he said he didn't know about it. Okay, talk to Cha-Cha. Sepeda done told y'all that you're not trusting every time he is quoted from it to talk. Come on now. So I'm saying I have to say that.
Or seen with the architect.
We'll see. Oh, look. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me see. Can I pull up? Because I didn't pull it up. Did you see the yes, here
in
we
his
are.
campaign the last time?
No question. Now, the Attorney General under the Trump administration, probably or possibly Stephen Miller, and America First Legal, this shell that is being propped up by the right-wing racist billionaires who are funding the attempt to create a permanent apartheid state in the United States. They just filed a lawsuit. And here it is right now. This is faculty, alumni, and students opposed to racial preferences versus Northwestern University. You saw this is the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. Filed it the 2nd of June, 2020, July 2024. So it just happened this week. Faculty, alumni, and students opposed to racial preferences. FASORP, FASORP. Some made-up organization like Students for Fair Admission, we had the billionaire Ed Bloom behind them. They're suing Northwestern Law School. Let me just read the first paragraph of the complaint. It reads let me just say why I'm reading this to the point that we're raising. What do people want? What do we want? We depends on who we mean. We say we want a better society, but who is the we saying it? Is it the billionaire class? Is it the racists and sexists? Is it the theocrats? Is it the masses of people who simply want to be able to have a good time with their children and come home and not worry about it and work and have the dignity of labor, as Martin King said, and where do we go from here, Chaos of Community? You aren't just working for a job. You're working for the dignity of labor, for worth, for value, from contributing to society. Who is the we? Here go the wees who filed this lawsuit with the backing of Stephen Miller's funky racist ass and his billionaire backers. And if Trump wins a second term, he will be in the Department of Justice. And they already done said in Project 2025, which Trump claims he doesn't have anything to do with and doesn't know about, except when he's on the debate stage next to a man who was old and tired. And he says out his mouth that they're going to put 20 million people in fucking internment camps. Pause. I'm feeling like LeVar Burton is coming out. My point is, this is the first paragraph of the we who look at America this way. Complaint. Here it is. Quote, faculty hiring at American universities is a cesspool of corruption and lawlessness. For decades, left-wing faculty and administrators have been thumbing their noses at federal anti-discrimination statutes and openly discriminating on account of race and sex when appointing professors. They do this by hiring women and racial minorities with mediocre and undistinguished records over white men. They wrote this, white men. One more time, friends. They wrote this over white men who have better credentials, better scholarship, and better teaching ability. This practice, long known as affirmative action, is firmly entrenched at institutions of higher learning and aggressively pushed by leftist ideologues on faculty appointments committees and in university DEI offices. But it is prohibited by federal law, which bans universities that accept federal funds from discriminating on account of race or sex in their hiring decisions. Birthday says, Larry, you'll love this as a lawyer. And you've been preaching this from the mountaintops. Look at this line. Here's their quoting enabling legislation. C, 42 United States Code, Section 2000D. That will be Title VII, friends. Last week, the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They done turned Title VI again on its head. 20 U.S. Code Section 1681. That would be Title IX. Yeah, that's the gender. They're throwing white women under the bus. White men, white. They're going to use Title IX against women. And it also says, see also 42 United States Code Section 1981, prohibiting racial discrimination in the making and enforcement of contracts. That's the one Byron Allen tried to use to call racism when he couldn't get his hands on the television resources he wanted, on the television apparatus he wanted. And they flipped it and then settled and he got what he wanted. And all of a sudden he ain't a civil rights pioneer no more. But this is the reverse racism. I should go one more paragraph. Watch this, friends. It's a long range strategy. I started calling him something else. This white man who runs the Heritage Foundation, we all saw, if you didn't, most of us saw at least the headline where he said they're trying to roll back and repeal the 20th century and it's going to be bloodless if the left allows it. Old Times said, yeah, he said that, but many people do not know he has a PhD. And on his dissertation, which you can get, his dissertation was on slavery in Louisiana, friends. The great Toyin Falola, the African historian. I interviewed him for the Black Table last year on Black Star Network. Falola was on his committee. Do you think Toyin Falola know that he was helping a whole racist get a PhD? This the white boy who went on and slapped around Simone Sanders and Michael Steele. Simone Sanders Townsend and Michael Steele. Has a PhD, and he wrote his dissertation on slavery in Louisiana. But here's the paragraph. Last paragraph in the opening of the complaint. University faculty and administrators think they can flout these anti-discrimination statutes with impunity because they are rarely sued over the discriminatory hiring practices in the Department of Education looks the other way. But now, this is what they wrote. But now, the jig is up. They wrote that in the complaint, friends. The jig is up. What's your name? Jigga. Yeah, the jig is up. I don't care how many orange jumpsuits you use dancing at the Super Bowl for your friends that own the football team, Sean. The jig is up. Except when you dance for them. Dance for them. Back that ass up. Next sentence. The Supreme Court is no longer willing to indulge affirmative action exceptions to the unambiguous textual commands of Title VI, Title IX, and Section 1981. The unambiguous textual commands. Those three words, you know what he just did? They took a whole fist and shoved it down the throat of Reconstruction. Ketanji Brown Jackson, Ketanji Onyeka Brown Jackson, trying to get that fist out of our mouths, but they said them laws was passed pursuant to amendments that were passed to protect white men. The 14th Amendment was to protect white men? Yeah. Section 1981, which had in its language the Civil Rights Act of 1866, that you should have the ability to be treated as a white man. As a white man. That's in the statute. And guess what? When they unveiled the 1619 Project years ago, and I'm sitting down there at the Museum of African American History and Culture on stage with my friend Nicole Hannah-Jones and all these other scholars talking, and David Blight. Was it David Blight? No, it wasn't David Blight. What's that guy? Columbia? Eric Foner sitting up there, historian of Reconstruction, brilliant work, talking about how, some kind of way that language protected Black people. And I said, no. What the cases since then, particularly over the last 50 years, have showed, do you remember, Professor Foner and everybody else, when they then went on to say that white people should be treated as a white man? Oh, yeah. Whiteness is no longer linked to your physical body. It is a concept that transcends the physical body. Even white people have the right to be treated as white people, which means there's a supra-legal whiteness at play here that is in this document when they say that the Supreme Court is no longer willing to indulge affirmative action exceptions to the unambiguous textual commands. Unambiguous. Ketanji Brown Jackson said, read the legislative record when they were debating the 14th Amendment. It is unambiguous. It was to help Black people and make sure everybody had equal rights. But their response is, no, it wasn't to help Black people. You're going to ignore your eyes and detach them from your brain, ignore the plain reading of the legislative record and return to our whiteness and say that Title VI, Title IX, and 1981 were passed to protect white men. Final sentence. And plaintiff, FASORP, has organizational standing to sue any university that refuses to adopt colorblind and sex-neutral faculty hiring practices. Neutral means white. FASORP FASORP, brings suit to enjoin Northwestern's discriminatory faculty hiring practices and expose the corrupt faculty and administrators who enable and perpetuate these violations of federal law. Do you know why they put standing in there? It's because they have tried this before. They're going to try it again. Every case they've done to try this that has been dismissed in the federal courts on the question of standing. You have not proven harm, so they don't have standing. This, friends, is how the abortion case around the abortion pill, the Supreme Court dodged it this time. They got to get past November, friends. They dismissed it for standing, not on the merits. What do you think is going to happen when Donald Trump is reelected and this court is now freed from any idea that they ever not going to be in control again? They swap out the Christian Soldier and the wholly owned subsidiary of Harlan Crow. In other words, Alito and Thomas. They get a couple of early to mid 40-year-olds in, and then they bring the case again. The Fearless Fund took an L, and they giving out their own money. Guess what? It's over. But the parties are the same. Again, the return, as we kind of bring this in for a close, they will probably lose this case, the Northwestern case. But that ain't the point. They may lose at the federal courts, and then they go to the appeals court. That will be the Court of Appeals, right? By then, Trump's president, you got your Supreme Court locked in. Just bring it, just bring it, just bring it. Maybe they go to rocket docket, the shadow docket, which means they go straight to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, we will accept, we will grant certiorari, we will read this. Ketanji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor and Lady Kagan are pulling the rest of their hair out. And meanwhile, we don't give a damn whether y'all pull your hair out or die. In fact, maybe Sonia, how old are you? How's your health, sis? You're Latina. I mean, your blood pressure, diabetes, good. Maybe we'll go, maybe we'll go 7-2 and not 6-3. But the point is this, in terms of the vote, what you think? The likelihood is they dismiss for standing once they've got the fascism locked in so tight. Now, this is where we are. On international affairs, Democrats and Republicans are not lockstep. The Republicans are more likely to say, bring all the stuff home. Now, they're going to give it to their billionaire friends, all them defense contracts and all that money that they're saving by not being in these unnecessary wars. So don't believe that. Don't listen to debates like you watching Real Housewives. I'm sorry, I held it up. I just love watching Andy enjoying himself. This is a metaphor for what the L's we taking, y'all. But anyway, then again, maybe his friend, sorry, calling Vanderbilt. His friend Vanderbilt's son, who was at CNN, what's his name?
Anderson Cooper.
Anderson Cooper. Maybe he was in the room when they were deciding, do you want some more black women? Well, I was talking to Andy last night. He seems to think we put a couple of black women on. Anyway, but the point is this.
As if he has ratings.
As if he doesn't need ratings. I mean, he might need them. I mean, he can always, maybe he'll come over and watch what happens. He could just come there and have that confused look on his face he has on CNN. They get the ratings. But at any rate, what we have to understand is that in this process that we're involved in, it once again is vital that we participate on all cylinders, because they are on the verge now of transforming something that was already a criminal enterprise. The United States has never been anything but a criminal enterprise. The reason that it got its foot off our neck isn't because of some benevolent politician like Abraham Lincoln or some benevolent politician. It is because enough people banged on them. A word to my friends, who, as Gerald Horne would call them, our friends on the left. He would know, because he was as far left as you could get and still is, but he's also a pragmatist. So our friends on the left who would say, it's all the same, let them suffer. Okay. Some of y'all are college professors, which means you'll be living in your house and nothing's going to change a whole lot for you. You might get caught up in some DEI thing where you got to fight now because Stephen Miller and them took over the courts, and so you mad. But, some of y'all going to leave the country. Yeah, some of y'all going to leave the country because you have options. Not just Canada or Mexico. You might go to Africa. You can call yourself a Pan-Africanist in the overpriced place that you build and lord it over the poor people in Africa like you lord it over the poor people here, as you claim to be for them. So I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to all them people who are going to take another kind of L, who will have the teeth kicked out of them. Some of them literally by police. Yes, the police state is terrible now, but did you hear what this fool said at the debate about what he wants to do relative to police? Anyway. We have been, as you say, as we kind of wind this up, we have been at the process of building an archive now for 4 years. and 4 plus. And with Knarrative in Nubia, that is centered in collective work. We'll continue that work Monday night. We'll continue that work in a couple of days, as the Muslims will say, inshallah, as we hear. And as we do that, we're trying to make sense of not only the polity called United States of America, but the global polities, because we are a global community. How do we push back? How do we assess each coming and going moment and make action? How do we, in other words, pay attention and stop ignoring the obvious? The people versus the polity. The polity is not a natural thing. The nation state is not a natural thing. The state is a huge formation as a concept. It was convened in violence and held together through fear and coercion and changed through mutual cooperation. The United States has changed simply because enough people got together at enough critical moments in time to change it. As I'm walking up and down in downtown Washington, D.C. and looking at this parade, I'm looking at all these little black high school bands. It seemed like 2 or 3 of them came from Georgia, one from North Carolina, these children marching, young boy high stepping, sisters high stepping. I'm saying, look at them. It makes me so happy to see them. And then if I saw one, I saw 7 or 8 different groups of Asians, the Thais, the Chinese, the Koreans. Why are these Asians marching in this parade? Why? Because, hey, if I wrap myself in this flag, maybe you'll leave me the F alone. In other words, the flag is like a shield for a lot of people. Just leave me alone. You understand? Just leave me alone. Do you love America? I love America. All the people, when I saw people who were non-white at this thing, I had on an Alabama State shirt. You know, I'm just down here. But I'm looking at these people and I'm looking at the New Yorkers who are Puerto Rican, Afro-Puerto Rican, because I asked them coming down and they got American flags on. They got their Mets baseball caps on and American flag shirts. And I said, wow, that's great. Now you catch them at the Puerto Rican Day parade, you're not going to see that American flag. But I know where I'm going. This is all cosplay. The nation state is cosplay. John Roberts, fool, thinks that it's real. But anyway, that's the story for another day. This 4th of July, that's why continental Africans and Africans from the Caribbean can have tables full of Trump stuff, selling it to people who also think it's real, because they are politically like, I don't give a damn. Like you just said, the media was, I'll give you what you want in a capitalist society. What they don't understand, though, is that when you reinforce that, you're creating a bigger problem for yourself. Because if Trump gets back in, you're not there at the 4th of July parade selling because they have deported you, sir. Stephen Miller, that brain-addled miscreant, is so obsessed with hiding his own ambiguity in terms of whiteness. And all you got to do is look at Adolf Hitler to understand that, and the mind trick he played on the whole country, to understand that this is being driven by exclusion from whiteness. He's trying to earn his way into whiteness too, and he's going to do it on your backs if you let him. So we have to understand that. Now, I just want a couple of things I want to end with. Anytime we don't pause to understand not only the importance of what we're doing, but that we must do it, we run the risk of being interpreted out of our minds, how we should understand this. And I'm saying that in regard to this. There was an article in yesterday's paper that I thought was fascinating. It may have been with the Juvenile. No, that was foolishness. This was actually foolishness Saturday. That was this morning, not foolishness Friday. And this puts a different meaning. I shouldn't even make that connection. Where is that? Oh, here we are. Yes, this was yesterday's weekend art section of the New York Times. Let me see if y'all can see it, because I moved to read from the legal article. I want to make sure that I'm in the Nubia chat. I see people going. Oh, here we are. Yes. Yep. Weekend arts. This is not, they love putting the lavish life, brisk plunged into the blue fashion show. This is what I was below the fold. Helping Black culture rise upon a mountain of books. This is Jennifer Schlussler writing in yesterday's New York Times. Librarians built collections and nurtured communities of writers and readers. I said, what? Huh? What? What? Okay. Now here, and this is the reason I want to bring this up and kind of end with this. Because whiteness, too often, even well-meaning whiteness, still being whiteness, invades like an uninvited visitor to your house. who loves your cooking and came there with the idea in the back of their mind, having sat and eaten it, hot chicken out of Nashville, grits out of everywhere. I mean, after eating it, said, then I need to write a cookbook. Meanwhile, the person serving you that, Andrew Rube Foster, Negro Leagues, Robert Singstack Abbott, and Robert L. Van, Chicago Defender, Pittsburgh Curry, not thinking of the day when they're going to try to take that momentum and pull it for themselves, just keeps plying you with the good stuff. Whiteness often invades like an unwanted visitor or an uninvited visitor to your house, sometimes invited, who loves your cooking. And then after coming there, has the idea of writing a cookbook and then becomes an expert. Now they're interested. Helping Black culture rise upon a mountain of books. Here's the article. Librarians built collections and nurtured communities of readers and readers, rather. Here's the article. It was a banner day in the history of American libraries, and I can't read it all. I'll show you why in a second. It was a banner day in the history of in the history of American libraries and in Black history. On May 25th, 1926, we're coming up on the centennial, friends, the New York Public Library announced that it had acquired the celebrated Afro-Latino bibliophile Arturo Schomburg's collection of more than 4,000 books, manuscripts, and other artifacts. That's a lot of books in 1926. I got 4,000 books here. A year earlier, the library had established the first public collection dedicated to Black materials at its 135th Street branch in Harlem. Now the branch would be home to a trove of rare items, from some of the earliest books by and about Black people to then new works of the brewing Harlem Renaissance. Schomburg was the most famous of the Black bibliophiles who, starting in the late 19th century, had amassed impressive quote-unquote parlor libraries in their homes. Parlor library. Such libraries became important gathering places for Black writers and thinkers at a time when newly created public libraries, which exploded in number in the decades after 1870, were uninterested in Black materials and often unwelcoming to Black patrons. I'm going to pause here for a second. Here again, pause. For those of you who may not be aware of this, the Africana Studies framework we developed, the reason we had to separate social structure, what social structure do African people find themselves in, from governance formations, who are Africans to each other, is because, and it's not even a new original idea. I was moving some books around. I realized I didn't put this one in storage. This is Melville Herskovit's edited volume, The New World Negro. Actually, his wife, because he had passed away by this time in the 60s, The New World Negro. It's interesting because he talks about Afro-American studies. This is the guy who wrote The Myth of the Negro Past. Melville Herskovitz wrote a little piece called, let me see if I can find it quickly, The Contribution of Afro-American Studies to Africanist Research. In 1948, the piece that I'm about to quote from was actually written for, no, that's not the one I want. The Negro in the New World is the one I'm looking. No, that's not it either. It must be the third one, because, I read these things through. And yes, The Present Status and Needs of Afro-American Research. He delivered this paper in October 28, 1950. October 28, 1950, he delivered this paper at the annual meeting of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History held at Atlanta University. Let me be very clear. We've talked about Woodson ad infinitum. Our sessions are the archive. The association did not discriminate against white people. Neither did Negro Leagues. Black institutions didn't discriminate, except that white law prevented them from having white people around. But let's be clear about this. They did not discriminate off their own initiative, off their own impulse. That's one reason why a lot of them went out of business, because white people were not going to let Black people come in there, but they're going to let non-whites come in there, but they always want to come to your house to eat your cooking and then decide they're going to write a cookbook. Coming back, we're going to end with that. Herskovitz, reading Herskovitz reminded me in our Africana Studies framework of how the distinction between who we are to other people and who we are to each other has always been made, friends. At this meeting, this white man, considered a father of Black studies by some people who are wildly wrong-headed about this. Again, can you see? Here's your brain. Did you connect? Don't do that. But the point is, or do it. Nobody really cares, because we're in the center now. We've jailbroken the thing, so it's not even important, which is the point I'm going to end with, which is the point I'm going to make in response to this article. When Herskovitz is at this Black meeting in a Black city that is still segregated in 1948, he makes the point. He says, no discussion of the development of this field would be accurate if it did not recognize the role played by the Journal of Negro History and its late editor, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. The hospitality to papers wherein data have been detailed and relationships discussed is evidenced by the number of titles in the Afro-American field published by him in the organ of the Association of the Study of Negro Life and History he founded. More important still is the fact that for years this journal has been the only one devoted for the historical aspect of Afro-American study. He doesn't call it studies. He says Afro-American study. There's a lot of people now bandying about the term black study. Guess what? That ain't even new. Herskovitz did that 3/4 of a century ago at the black meeting. He says, a fact that gains added significance when it is realized that Woodson interpreted the word history in its broadest sense, publishing many papers that only in their implications dealt with historical data, strictly speaking. If a review of policy of the journal at this time should result in giving it the compass implicit in this broader interpretation of historical study, this would be but a logical working out of its founder's position concerning Afro-Americanist research. Why did I read that? I had to skip forward to that. I had to skip forward to an article he published in, here it is on page 43. 3 years earlier in 1943, this is what Herskovitz said. He says, and here it is. Let me see, concepts and techniques, hypotheses, systematic study, little of the president. Come on, son. Today, the scientific, it thus appears a logical moment for stop. No, I'm sorry. Here we are. Here it is. He says, Afro-American studies must be stressed that Afro-American studies are not to be limited to the study of Negro populations and their cultures alone. I would concede that as the governance formation, who we are to each other. Herskovitz goes on and says, but must follow through to assess the contributions Africa has made to the peoples among whom the Negroes live. And there it is. Now we tie it to this article, we finish up. What Herskovitz is saying is, in inverse, is that you shouldn't limit what we call Africana studies to just who Africans are to each other. But you must also include who Africans are to other people, the contributions they've made, which means there's an extension of those Africans from where they were to where they are, and that it is unbroken, and you can look at both. Social structure is a contribution too, and it's very important. That's what this article that I'm about to finish dealing with is talking about. But at the center of who we are, whether it be why we vote, Biden versus Trump. I like his hair. I think he's stupid. I think he's insane. I think he lost his mind. I think he's too old. Okay. What is the objective, friends? Can you say this all the time? Prof, you say it all the time. My objective is Black people being protected, and through that protection, being able to speak our truths to the world and help transform humanity and move us forward. That's what the best of the Black press, that's what the best of Black sports and entertainment. I'm speaking my truth, and it's on behalf of everyone. But in order to help everybody else, I got to speak my truth. I cannot speak what I am to you. I cannot speak from my imagination. The irony of Martin Luther King is all that talk y'all want to use of Martin Luther King being an integrationist. He did not integrate his church. He's standing in blackness speaking to the world. Did you see a white man preaching from his church on Sunday morning? Hell no. Why? Because it is out of my blackness, as August Wilson said, that I speak to our common humanity, not out of my imaginary, what you think is Black, am I speaking. So this lady in the New York Times yesterday has discovered the great cooking in the kitchen of Black librarians and libraries, not even libraries, because librarians is the trick, returning to the language. Says, again, newly created public libraries, which exploded in number in the decades after 1870, were uninterested in Black materials and often unwelcoming to Black patrons. Yes, they were. Guess what Black libraries were not unwelcoming to Black patrons? Oliver Jones' house in West Virginia, where Carter Woodson as a teenager read those Black newspapers and the white newspapers to those coal miners who were veterans of the Civil War after they got off their ships. That's a Black library, friend. But you know what wasn't there? Oliver Jones was not a librarian. Oh, y'all going to start defining Black collections, but we're not coming back on the plantation. We have jailbroken the Black university in the Black library. Do you have books at your house? Well, then you have a library. Are you a librarian? Well, I don't have any training. Okay, well, if you don't have any training, then we might have to put you in the folk category with Artur Schomburg and them, because they spend the rest of this article. And this is why I can't read the whole thing. Let me go to the page. You know why? Because after you get out the front page, That's the rest of the article. I ain't do the crossword yet. There's Arturo Sean, but then I wrote a long ass article on this.
Is that Dorothy Porter Wesley?
That is Dorothy Porter Wesley, who they've also discovered.
Look, I wouldn't have known her without you.
No. But this is the thing. There are people. I guarantee you, probably this is where I'm going with it. Woo! Talk about channeling rage. Woo! I was reading this hot. Because some of you people I know. But anyway, I ain't mad that they wrote the article because it's what their job is supposed to do. We love this. We love this eating. So now we're gonna pick who has the best food. I've written my cookbook. You've written your cookbook. I think Hattie Jean over there has the best hot chicken in Nashville. Well, I think this lady over here, this from Jamaica, has some good hot chicken. Okay, now that we've curated it, we'll give an award to the best hot chicken eater, and the winner of the award will be a celebrity chef at our newly opened Black as Hell woman owned by white people restaurant that is now in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn since we done moved all you Negroes out. But we will invite her when she went. Oh, you think we ain't seen this damn show before? Here we go. A dream haven in Harlem. Initially, those librarians were stepping into what might have seemed like a void. And he goes on to talk about the census. In the 1920 census, 69 of the 15,297 Americans who listed their profession as librarian were Black. That started to change. Goes on. A quote, "These librarians were very tuned in and understood that a cultural movement also needs a space," said Laura E. Helton, a historian at the University of Delaware and author of the recent book Scattered and Fugitive Things, How Black Collectors Created Archives and Remade History. And libraries served that function in every town and city where they were set up. She is absolutely correct. I have her book. I'm about halfway through. It's interesting. I started to pick it up, but y'all don't need to buy that book. No shade on Professor Helton. Great book. But let me be very clear about that. Ooh, let me not say what I'm about to say. I was going to say something right there. Let me stop. Let me stop right now because your cooking is so good. No, I'm going to write a book about this cooking. This cooking is so good. Anyway, not Delaware State. Go Hornets. University of Delaware. Understand. Not to be confused with. In other words, this idea of pulling us back on these plantations, not that we shouldn't be at every institution there is. Prof, you worked at Hunter College for a generation training young minds. We needed you there, this working class school with all these different kind of people. You know, I'm a Howard fighting them class battles in the midst of all these Black students is a beautiful thing. There is no sheltered rear. The best place is institutions that we control that aren't based on the model. That's why we of these places that will ultimately always retreat to the mean of themselves. We have to do that. Once we do that, we can infuse those places that we don't control with the type of influence that we can wield if we come in our organized maturity in self-determining spaces. That's what Nubia is. That's what this space is. We have these other places like YouTube, like the universities where we can interact with, and people, or most of our people are there. As Jacob Carruthers would say, our people in the public schools, we need to be in the public schools, but we need the Kemetic Institute. We need our institutions. We need the Black church, like Reverend Wright at Trinity. We need the Black institutions. Going on, he says, she talks about Dorothy Porter and how she invented this, working in parallel with Dorothy Porter, a librarian at Howard University. Catherine Latimer, who was at 135th Street at what became the Schomburg, says, created an index of Black poetry and song with each entry listed by name and first line. Porter's vision was lost, but Helton located Latimer's several years ago in the storerooms of the Schomburg. So Helton wrote a whole book, Scattered Archives, very nice. This is where I'm in. And as I'm reading this, I want to make a call for Black librarians, many of whom are Nubians, and more important, Black book gatherers, library builders of all sources who are here. You know, Marlon Lloyd, and I'm talking to all y'all, everybody here, we know, making a call in Nubia. We need a separate page now. You raise your head to set it up for us, brother. Prof, as you are getting back in the publishing industry, I want us to publish a volume like Tom Battle, Paul Coates, and Eleanor DeVerney Sinnett published back in the 90s called 80s, called Black Bibliophiles and Collectors. It was published by Howard University Press, and it chronicled the great Black book collectors. One of my jegnas, the great Charlie Blockson, Arturo Schomburg, so many others, Glenn Carrington, so many others. It chronicled them, except I want our volume to displace the idea of the academically trained professional librarian as the custodian of our archives and our memory. Because what this is an example of is Our friends help us and help themselves by putting them at the front of a conversation. That Arturo Schomburg, that John Edward Bruce, that the great book collectors, that Charles Cipher, the F.W. Hammurabi, that, I mean, come on, Larry Crow in here. Larry knows more of them than I do. And Crow is one of them, that these book women, these book men put together to preserve, as Schomburg said, the ammunition we need to engage in intellectual warfare. I want us to publish that volume. And I want to help. I want to edit it. I want us to come together, because this kind of stuff here, this is why our people are confused. You mix up who you are to other people with who you are to each other, and then the people come in and anoint themselves the expert on you. And we're not doing that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, first, yes, we will do that because we can do that. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Why call it black? So let me ask you, and I'm just asking everybody, right? You said black bibliophiles, right? So
that's what they called it. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
50 years from now, if we're not centering whiteness, then we don't need to. We need to call it what it is, which is the best bibliophiles, or the greatest bibliophiles, or the most whatever adjective we use to describe them. But black, to me, centers the whiteness. And this, if this is the foundation, if this is the standard, if this is the due north, then it is what it is. Whoever picks it up, they'll just happen to figure out, maybe or not, that everybody in here is black.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, but if we're establishing it, because I'm imagining 50 years from now, maybe this won't be an issue, and it'll just be
it's going to be an
standard. You think it'll still be an issue?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, it's going to get worse. And I'll tell you why, because every generation, Will Neal Hansberry and shout out Deborah Hurd was at a cash. You were here last weekend. The same time I was down on the mall, they were an organization heavily invested in Nubian history and culture. And before they left, because they're doing work around Nubia, in fact, they're both members along with Mario Beatty and a few others. Sharon Johnson, who's a Nubian, is probably here, something called the William Leo Hansberry Society. Dr. Hansberry, very important figure, of course, as we know, kind of a founder in many ways of African studies. Did dirty by Howard University, a story another day.
They did a lot of people dirty.
Oh yeah, which is their job. I'm not mad at them. I mean, because
Francis Weldon got fired. We were just talking about
no question.
Last anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but we have to understand you can't look. You don't want to scare your master. You want liberation too, but you don't want to. And then the irony is, of course, that after it happens, the very people who betray people then get mad at the end of their life and start giving up all the details about what they did, because they didn't get the pat on the head. But anyway, that's a story for another day. They met with before they left town, before they went back to Chicago, they got a chance to sit with Gail Hansberry, William Leo Hansberry's daughter, who's still around here. I mean, beautiful sister, just an incredible artist, intellectual. I raised them because Hansberry understood this. He understood that race is not real. And at the same time, what blackness, then they would say Negroes. This label that we were forced to live under, that segregated us, that reinforces whiteness as a powerful construct, once it has been displaced, the question is, how do you organize yourself? We can organize ourselves as human beings. Clyde Taylor would say, church finger, the power of whiteness lies in its invisibility. They said, why we gotta be black or white? We could just be human. No. Sylvia Winter would say, when you say human, you're saying white. What you've removed is the label. So now you can't even recognize that you've reinforced whiteness by taking it away. The challenge we have is to transcend those things, to displace race. But if we just get rid of the label without doing the work of connecting the cultural locations, we will continue to so we use black. We even use African in the short term.
Okay.
The ultimate idea is to ultimately not need it at all. But we live in a society where if you drop it now, they say, great, see, this is a universal love story. It's like the Romeo and Juliet of Africa. Oh, hold up, what'd you just do? Well, I mean, people fall in love. Every society had slavery. No, every society did not have unfree labor. The race the same. And no, every society did not have relationships the same. But once we removed the labels, you put your whiteness in our face by using a genealogy that excluded everybody else.
Unless you're not invited to this table. Period.
But you have to, don't you?
No. Why?
Because
and this is
that's ultimately our goal, isn't it? Everybody got to be the human, the species.
so the pendulum needs to swing all the way back here to get to the center.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, what's the center of what though?
I don't know.
No,
Balance.
when I say the center of what, I'm gonna think about the question of universality, right? The question of, so if we're saying that it has to come back to the center, what is the pendulum attached to?
Ooh,
What is the universe that
yes.
has this pendulum swinging on it? Because if it's a racial universe, you're just gonna create a black
Right.
version
Yes.
of the whiteness.
Yes. Yes. Which is what we don't want to do.
Right.
Uh
We got to walk away from the pendulum.
and
See,
wait, hold on. PB Bob, stop commenting on people's looks and stuff.
wait, that's fine.
Hold on. I just want to gather up. Whether I look sleepy or not is irrelevant. Get this information and stop.
Hey, I'm sleepy. If I'm not looking sleepy, when I get off this, I'm gonna change clothes and go out in the street.
How base and low vibrational folk are.
Oh, that's all right. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it.
All
Don't
right.
do it. It's a distraction.
It is.
Hey, watch this. Watch this. Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna do what I would naturally do if we were talking. When we talking on the phone, this is what I'm doing. Keep talking. I'm listening.
So I'm talking this stuff and I'm saying
Go
things
ahead.
about black and white. And is that what you do? Is that okay? All right.
Because I don't want to be looking at nothing. I want to hear everything you saying. When you talking to me, I'm listening.
Yeah.
If you see me, even when we're in office hours, as people are talking, it gets to a point I'll be like, I want to hear that.
Yes.
Because it's too much for me to see. That's why we're in trouble now in terms of reading.
Let me tell you, I started putting video up with just my voice, which is why I love radio.
Yes.
Because y'all are so focused on the wrong things that if you have to be forced to listen, it's a completely different muscle that gets enacted in your body, in your spirit, in your mind. So I think at some point we need to have this conversation, because as I am moving forward with planning, I'm purposefully removing these labels because I'm imagining a world where they maybe shouldn't matter. Right. From the standpoint of excellence is excellence. So you're going to get this book because it's with the best bibliophiles you could ever imagine. They happen to all have melanin, but we all have melanin. We all came from Africa. So relax, and in many ways, it kind of forces people into having to sit with this content differently, because if it's black, it can be dismissed right now. And if it's black, it can be sued. If it's black,
as long as it doesn't end up in it doesn't end up between Patience and Fortitude on 42nd Street, 5th Avenue. In other words, we have to take all the labels off, but how did what we contributed end up as number 48 in the 50th greatest books on bibliophiles as rated by the New York Public Library? In other words, when you take the labels off,
that's what we didn't force our knowledge into these buildings and these edifices.
Well, according to them, we did. According to this article, Jennifer Schlesler, which is exactly right. Our goal was to get in there. Our goal was to be at the New York Public Library. If Arturo Schomburg had enough money, he'd never have sold his library. Let me not say that, because DeVerney Sinnett, what's the sister in New York? Oh, I see her face. Diasporic Blackness. Vanessa Valdez. All the people, John Clark, writing about his friend Arturo Schomburg, they might have said, I want it there anyway because it has more access. What I'm saying is that you're right. These labels shouldn't matter. We have Nubia now. In fact, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this. Our book on Black bibliophiles and Black book culture should be, let's say this. Y'all start thinking about this. We'll put this page here. We'll talk more about this on Monday night, I think. We need to talk about this. If you are a book collector, meaning if you got thousands of books or one book, you understand, maybe think initially 2 pages. So whatever that translates into, 250 words, 500 words. If you want to write more, fine. But at least put that, or maybe let's say maybe 500 words. Because what I'm thinking is not this book that I'm talking about, Helton's book. No, not a book of Black, because a lot of those submissions are going to be by people who went to library school. I know too many, particularly women. I know some brothers too, who are in Nubia, who are trained librarians. I'm talking about children's librarians. We know that. Some of them we've been in conversation as they came in, right? But I'm talking about people who ain't never seen the inside of a library, who have books at their house. I'm talking about, Larry, you and your partner, y'all's children, y'all done built a whole curriculum. You got books in the. I mean, every time Eljoy sent a picture of somebody, one of her kids reading a book. Okay, what does that look like? Why did you do it? How does it make you feel? What's it important? Let's put it together. Then we publish it. And guess what? I'm still gonna buy them other books because I need to. We need to know about them. But you're not going to dictate to us what makes a person who is thinking and in community. You're not going to make sure, you're going to require they have a master of library science. You're not going to make your institutions the ones that dictate the terms. I mean, I'm looking at, I'm going to say this because I have to say it. I'm looking at Kevin Young. Here's Kevin Young, who used to run the Schomburg. Wait, is he on the front? He on the front, y'all. No, he's not. Where the hell did I see his picture? I saw Kevin's picture in here. There's Dorothy Porter. There's, well, what the hell? You think it was on the front page of the damn Weekend Arts? That was Friday's paper. Here is Friday. This is Saturday's paper. Y'all give me another second here because I didn't move the papers now around so much. Here's Friday. What the? Oh yeah. What the hell? This is the front page, right? After we talked about the donors and Israel, below the fold in the tab and what's in the paper, which let me know it was in there, is a little picture of Kevin Young, and it says, a look at the people and places that lifted so many communities. Below, Kevin Young at the Schomburg Center. Kevin not there anymore. He's the director of the National History of African American History and Culture, the Smithsonian. But he used to be at the Schomburg. And of course, here he is standing. Have you ever been to the Schomburg on that second floor in the cosmogram that was created by Houston Conwell, who he met his life partner, Kinshasa Conwell, who was the deputy director of the museum when they were undergrads at Howard University. Beneath this cosmogram are the ashes of Langston Hughes. So he's looking up, right? Guess what? Most people ain't attached to libraries. And damn it, we done jailbroken the Black University. We about to jailbreak the Black Library. We cannot, you got to have an essay in there. Probably look at them books, but you're not tasting our cooking and writing you a damn cookbook. It's over, at least for us.
I love that analogy. And I also love that we're having this conversation because I don't know where I sit yet. And even in having this, so we're still doing our project, right? You still doing, because I think this inspired it in some ways. What
it did. Well, the thing is, since we got out of school,
we're sitting and talking, thinking about
I've written every day. I don't have as many books. Lethea Watkins then wrote about 50 books. She just got notebooks, y'all, to understand. Every time I read a book, I just laugh because, again, that's why I pulled this Melvin Herskovitz today. Because people write about Black study and Afro-American study. This was a white dude who had to give his papers at a Black place where he's saying they came before me. We got a lot of work to do. And we will do it, but this is not a job of two people alone. It's not you. It's not me. This is the model, and you know this better than I do. See, the way universities work, we know one person with research grants, time off, and ain't teaching no students, got the TAs teaching their classes. They go zooming all over the world. Then they produce a revolution because they've discovered Vivian Harsh at Chicago Library. Now the Vivian Harsh collection is the Carr G. Woodson Library in Chicago, as Kim Delaney knows. Meanwhile, Kim Delaney, who's in here right now, I saw her coming up at the DuSable, is putting on community programs. She got a whole library at her house. She's following in the path of Margaret Burroughs and Charlie Burroughs, who had a library at their house. But the person who becomes the expert is sitting back. I like that. Let me write this cookbook because I got time. It's over for that. We're gonna wash all of y'all. Kim, we need your essay too, sis, about your library. In other words, we're gonna crowdsource this, and then we have and then if y'all want to write a book, fine. Who is this by? This by us. Written by us, for us, and for you too.
I love it. Now I got work. Give me more work to do.
No, I already look. I started outlining this one last night. I got so many outlines, but yeah, y'all gotta. I should mention one other thing before we go, because if everybody does a little, nobody has to do a lot. I was reading about this, and then it sent me off looking for this. Have you heard of this thing? I don't know if you have. I hadn't heard of it. Called the Great Green Wall of Africa. Let me tell you what these people are doing. If y'all look that up, the Great Green Wall is projected. They've planned it out to stretch from Djibouti in the east on the Red Sea all the way over to Senegal. They want to have it done by the mid-2030s. 500 million people in Africa live on land that is undergoing desertification. In other words, the desert. It's not that the desert is creeping. It's that, you know, people are kind of insecure in terms of their land. These Africans, with help not only from the countries they're in, World Bank's involved. You see it? They want to restore 100 million hectares of land, 15 kilometers. That's 9 miles wide and almost 5,000 miles long. When they finish the Great Green Wall of Africa, stop in the desert, extending into the desert, it'll be the largest living organism on the planet, 3 times the size of the Great Barrier Reef. It's about 15% done. This ain't no theory. They've already started.
Wow.
They need to plant 20 million acres a year, and it's going to cost about $4.5 billion US a year to do it. If Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Senegal have been the major contributors so far, and now in the press, they say, oh, unrest in the Sahel and terrorism. No, because now those countries that put France out and telling the U.S. you better shut it up, they're now turning back toward doing this. 50 million people been displaced in Africa by desertification. They will be projected in the next decade. Can you imagine these Africans going to build a green wall 9 miles wide and almost 5,000 miles long all the way across the Sahel into the desert? You know what that's going to do for the atmosphere, for the lungs of the plant? These are the kind of things that we have to be.
Listen, I was writing about Ethiopia planting when they had the new Abiy, I think his name was.
Yes, Abiy,
yeah,
the prime minister.
I can't pronounce his name. I
No,
apologize.
that's it.
Yeah.
You said it.
Planting 1 million trees, like committed. He has an all-woman cabinet. Like there were a lot, and then the stories of unrest came shortly after, and I didn't know if that was connected because I got distracted. But
because guess who can't make a lot of money if the people start. Oh, Tara, thank you. Tara put in a Nubian chat. I'm sure several people have. Tara put it in. Carolyn put it in.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You put it in. I mean, who's gonna? And here's the thing: it ain't all the same trees. This ain't a certain plant. Everybody's country.
Look how dumb America planted in our cities all male trees. This is how stupid. Which is why most of us have allergies, right? Because pollen level in all male trees, thinking because they don't litter as much, they don't produce as many leaves. But then the trees are revolting and giving all of us allergy. But who does that benefit? The pharmaceutical companies that then give you out. I don't know if that was on purpose, but at least they're doing something to help the environment, not to destroy our bodies.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
They're doing it to save themselves, and it's going to help save the planet.
God.
And that's the kind of thing we have to do. We done gone a long time today.
Yeah,
no. I'm not talking about you. I guess we both sleepy. We should probably take a nap, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, no. Hey, look, if y'all out there, be kind to each other in them spades games and bit whist. We know y'all celebrate. July 4th is just a day off, and you waited until the weekend. So whatever y'all gonna do, if you're gonna drink, don't drive. I mean, just be,
stay cool and hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
The heat be heating, and it's gonna creep up on you if you're not careful. So
and if you are in France and eligible to vote tomorrow in this election, I ain't gotta tell you all. But because y'all already know, but for the rest of us, pay attention to what's about to happen. Because if these fascists get a majority, this 28-year-old Bardella will be the prime minister, and you're going to see something crazy. And as we talked about, I think during office hours, it was an article in last week's Financial Times. Air France is panicked like hell. Their money has dropped because people not coming to Paris like they think they were going to come. And many people in Paris who got money trying to leave. Right. If these fascists take the government, that means that our sister Shikari, that all of it, they gonna land in Paris in the middle of a straight up firefight, political firefight. So let's just pay attention.
Well, history is that Jesse Owens and the 20 other plus, including Jackie Robinson's brother and others, landed in the midst of Hitler's German Olympics. Why?
And you know what's crazy? Of course, y'all, those are football fans. You know this, proud. They're playing the European National Championships. Remember, we talked about that 2 weeks ago. The final game in the championship game will be played in that same stadium. Not only did the Germans not knock it down, they praised the architecture. They took off the Nazi symbols, but they said we ain't gonna knock this stadium down. So then those the black football players, what's our brother Mbappe in France, who said y'all better not vote for Le Pen's party. They're going to be playing the European National Championship in the same stadium that Hitler sat and got mad when Jesse Owens took them 4 gold medals. You can't make this up. The same stadium, bro. And they ain't even trying to hide the history. They're saying, oh, we have. So please understand that, y'all. Please understand.
I'm glad they're not hiding the history because we were doomed to repeat it, and it's right in our faces. But let's keep the chains. I'm gonna play this one more time for the people who missed it.
Please do.
Add this to the.
Oh, wait a minute, I missed something.
What?
Kim said something happened with her daughter. That's my girl. So, oh wait, Nitra's birthday is today too. All right, Nitra. All right, anyway, yeah, I'm looking at the new.
And happy birthday to Laree Daniel Favors and everybody
ma'am.
who's celebrating
All
a
right, Laree.
birthday and celebrating themselves
Love
all
you.
month long. I love you as well.
Love you too. Let's
Well,
watch
have a
this. See y'all Monday night. All right.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
You know the chains I wore in Roots? I keep them over the hearth in my living room, right above my 12 Emmys. What is that about?
I don't know. What is it to you?
America first met me as Kunta Kinte, a young African kid who was kidnapped, tortured, refused his slave name. Then I read to their children and maintained the integrity of their favorite spaceship. Pretty soon, people began to think of me as safe.
Oh, the safest.
Once, I read Go the Fuck to Sleep for charity.
Yeah.
One of my brand partners dropped me.
What, you can't even say fuck?
I can, but there are consequences. I said fuck. I lost money.
Shit.
If I showed how angry I really am, but I'm not gonna hide it. So I keep my chains on the wall in the living room. I want my guests to know, while I am unquestionably their friend, I am also absolutely filled with rage.